Okay. Dylan, could you just enlarge a little bit more?
Lane has the computer up.
Yeah, that's on late.
Just to see the numbers.
They just want it a little bigger.
Oh, that's too much.
Too big, too small.
At 85? Okay, just a little smaller because you'll get everything in there. Lane, please. Just a touch. Okay,
It's very sensitive. There we go.
it is. Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Are we, we're good, okay. I'd like to call the Finance Audit Tendering and Administration Committee meeting to order. It's Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, 12 o'clock, 12:05. So order of business, number one is call the meeting to order. Number two, declarations of conflict of interest.
None.
Are there any declarations? No declarations. Number three, approval of agenda. Moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Deputy Mayor Yankoff, thank you. Approval of the previous draft minutes, February 5th, 2025. Moved by Deputy Mayor Yankoff, seconded by Mayor Brown, thank you. Number five, business arising from the minutes.
None.
No business, not seeing any. Okay, number six, discussions, reports, draft capital budget. So just before we get into the meat of this, I'd just like to say this process has been, staff have been working hard, diligently, department heads, managers, CAO. Getting what we have before us here is the draft capital budget. As we all know, I think most of us know, many of you around the table longer than I have. When you come with your capital budget, you're starting with a big gross number that's probably, the reality is it's greater than what we're going to be able to fulfill in terms of wishes. So from that gross number to where we have in front of us today, this draft capital budget, we've got some decisions and discussions to make. So and in this process, and in these discussions, this is there's a lot of time has gone into this on behalf of our staff. We've got to be recognize the efforts and the advice and the due diligence that they've gone through to get us here. So we certainly got to be respectful of their their process, their advice to us, and hopefully the discussions around this will be cordial and professional by all parties. So, having said that, what I'd like to do is before hand off to Lane. What I've shared with kind of Lane in advance, if he would, I know I spent some time with him this morning, and I got the draft yesterday, like the rest of you did. I just would like Lane to maybe just kind of step us through and explain the outlay of what we have in front of us, and just so everybody's clear on the prioritization and what the numbers mean in terms of the rankings. And as it goes from left to right, it goes from a gross ask of 107 million down to 67.9. So I just want Lane to kind of summarize what we have in front of us in terms of the data and what's going to be the basis of our discussion going forward. Thank you. Lane?
Thank you, Chair McAleer. Good afternoon, everyone. So just to highlight the document that's before you and summarize a little bit of the approach. So our process started in the fall of 2024, reaching out to the departments and asking them to identify the capital priorities, the ongoing capital priorities within the current fiscal year and the capital priorities for next year and for the next 5 years. And that information was compiled in the spreadsheet that you see before you in the fourth and fifth columns. So what we collected from the departments was over 100 capital budget projects of existing and new, totaling 107.7 million. With those requests and estimates, we also included an estimate for the partner funding, which you see in the next column there, which totals 17.8 million across various projects. So we took this information and reviewed it and compiled it for the senior leadership to review. And the senior administration, you know, here in the next column is our director level with the CAO. And the chiefs and also the director levels for a total of 6 within the senior administration group. The column where you see the adjustment of 21.87 million represents the director level review of projects, identifying anything that for various reasons could be given the extent of the ask moved out into the next fiscal year, or if there's projects delays with certain projects that we're aware of today, this was the opportunity for them to go in and give their perspective on what the cash flow could look like going into next year. So those adjustments are summarized in the column F you see on the screen here of a total of 21.8 million. As part of that exercise, we asked the senior administration to identify and add their perspective to the list of the projects that we had, taking into account projects that are currently underway, funding agreements that are in place for certain capital projects, projects where critical city assets are at end of life and need to be either repaired or replaced. And finally, consideration of impacts to frontline services or how they could support frontline services, also taking into account public safety. So in the column there where you see the 45.1 million total at the top, so that represents the projects where I saw 50% or more of the director, the senior administration supporting or identifying a capital project that they've considered as a priority to proceed with. And those are summarized by, as you can see, all of the yes columns or the yes comments going down that column below the 45.1 million. And I believe within the printout on the OneDrive, it also identified the percentages of support, whether it be 100%, 2/3, 50% of the senior administration, and so on.
So whether it's, what percentage of senior administration was for or against? That's the percentage, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what percentage identified in looking at those projects as being priorities for those reasons that I noted. Which got us to the 45.1 million where we are today.
Lane,
Yes.
or maybe Mr. Jenkins, did we do this last year, the priority list? I don't think we did. I think we went into council and did that a roundtable discussion, correct?
So that was in response to a request through the chair, to your worship, from some of the members of council that wanted us to make, administration to make a recommendation in terms of what we felt was kind of a manageable makeup.
I thought that kind of recommendation, Mr. Chair, would have come from this committee. Because this standing committee is responsible for finance and administration. So did some councillors come to you and then you went to Director of Finance and Administration, or how did it work out? Maybe the recommendations from senior, I thought we're gonna have some conflict here. because of some of the things I've seen here, so. Did you have councillors come to you?
No, I didn't have any kind of inordinate amount of councillors suggesting anything different than what we're looking at here.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, thank you.
Mr. Chair, just through to both councillor and the mayor's questions around process. When we sat down and looked at all the departments you could see in the far left have prioritized the projects on the far left. So that can be your guiding light at the end of the day. We sat down as a team after meeting with all the department heads and talking about the projects. We established the four categories, if you will, just to help you down the road. If you don't think that that's valuable at the end of the day, then you can choose to ignore that piece of work, but and just go by your department standing committee prioritizations on your far left. That's still your prerogative as far as moving it into council chambers.
and I'll speak up because we had emails going back and forth, I guess. And I would have expected, as in the past, and I know last year was a write-off. Last year wasn't done well. I know, Sue, you weren't here, but last year was basically a disaster, the way the budget was done. It started from new initiatives first and so on, so just. The problem that I have is usually the managers would come in and explain the projects, explain their budget, what they see as priorities and where they would like to go. And that really makes it a lot easier for this committee when they move into council chambers. Getting a 180-page document at 5 o'clock last night for a meeting today doesn't give us a lot of time to review this. So one of the things I looked at was East Roley Lagoon Park Development, an existing project. The ask was 215, but senior management is 17% and decided, no, that's not important. Does anybody in this room know where we are on that project? Does anybody know where we started? Does anybody know what's left to be done? Are you responsible for Parks and Rec? So do you know what's been done there so far?
I believe I've a reasonable,
What's been done?
the playground equipment has been moved to the expanded area.
From Bonnie Blink?
Yes.
Yeah, so Bonnie Blink hasn't been re-remediated yet. The building that Water and Sewer owned is, as you know, is in very poor shape, and it was to be fixed up. There was a trail to be put in. There's a lot of stuff not done, and I'm seeing here now that senior management's saying it don't need to be done. That's the message I'm getting. But we've gone to, no, just one sec, we've gone to a public meeting. We've asked them to approve a plan, so we've done a plan, it's passed by council, we started it, we're letting the residents know that this is coming, and now from this I see, can't continue it. We're done, we just put a bunch of playground equipment in a 4.5 acre piece of land. There's cars driving through from Bonnie Blink to Robinson Road now, and we get snow fence up around where the equipment come out and trying to stop people from driving through, and we're saying we're not gonna do anymore. And that's the recommendation I find, so this is where I find when we don't have all the experience to be able to speak on it. And do I get mad when I see stuff like that? Yeah, because we went through, I don't wanna go through what I went through last year. And I understand council makes a decision, but recommendations go a long way. Cause I mean, it's difficult for council enough with all the projects, 107, so it's nice to have some recommendations. But I would have liked to see, as you as the manager at one time, you spoke on behalf of your projects and your budget. And I just think that, Dan's only been here for a year, Mike's been here less than a year. We're asking these guys to kind of know these projects and know the history of them when they really don't. So, I didn't get a lot of time to go through the whole thing, and I understand that we're working hard and trying to get this.
And it's just the beginning too.
And a vote by the senior team that says 67% or 13%, it doesn't mean it's not important, and it doesn't mean nobody wants to see it forward. We looked at 100 million and tried to make it reasonable. If you look at fire and emergency services, like I had to make cuts there to help the city. That's what we looked at through every department. The managers met with the directors to bring that forward and talk about the project. So we kind of, our role was to take that and bring it up in this position here.
Yeah, but another problem I see with it, Tim, and not accusing anybody of anything, but when you have a senior leadership team, which to me is divisive, but you have two people on it that also manage their own department, and if the 5 of you sit together and they're starting to try and cut budgets, obviously you're going to defend your own department.
Just like I
That's what
mentioned,
managers do, and you got two of them on a committee of five making decisions or recommendations.
out of a.
So you don't have the other managers defending their budgets.
Yeah.
So,
They did to their
So,
directors.
yes, so, you know, if I could say so, you've, Mayor Brown and Councillor Bernard, you've shared your,
No,
shared,
I just wanna follow up, Mr. Chair.
yeah, just, that's, I'm speaking.
I'm listening.
The, Mayor Brown and Councillor Bernard, you've shared, you've shared, I guess, your differences or your opinion on the budgeting process last year, I guess, and that, perhaps, you know, weren't happy or whatever with the steps. We are where we are with what we have in front of us, where a lot of the work, I guess, has been done, has been done by the staff, but I still think it's gonna lend itself to the lens of, obviously this committee and then, ultimately council, that if it's, in your example, Terry, the lagoon thing, if it's, if there's something different that comes from this committee and ultimately council, I guess so be it, because decision makers at the end of the day, so. But I think we gotta work with this, process that we have in front of us for now. We're too far down the road with it to do otherwise. And it's just my comment. Mayor Brown?
Well, Mr. Chair, we all agree with you that we have to work through this process. This is the process we wanted. We didn't get it last year. This is how business was done in the past. But that's why I clarified about getting recommendations from senior management. That did not happen in the past. That was a roundtable discussion by members of council with managers that would come in and go. I just want to clarify, Councillor Bernard, again, you're referring to the East Royalty infill site remediation project, is that right?
the old lagoon site,
Yeah, so that's the East Royalty landfill.
this project here.
Okay, so I want to thank Lane Pino for providing us a actual up until the end of February 12th, correct, sir? So if I look at the actual page 3 for trails and pathways, East Royalty landfill site remediation, budgeted $650,000. Thus far, we have spent $0.
Where are you seeing that, Philip?
Mike, is that a
So
different
take this-
project maybe?
You're in the old budget?
No, this document was prepared by Mr. Lane Pino, because I sent the email to all of us. Could you give us the actuals for capital expenditures up until end of
Oh,
third
25,
quarter?
yeah,
Okay, so page 3.
yeah. No, I
So
see.
nothing has been spent so far on it,
Yeah.
okay? So that, to me, tells me, is there an issue here that we're not getting the project done? Because I think this has been carrying over from previous budgets.
And still should carry on.
Well, it should still carry over,
My
but
understanding is
at some point in time, we have to trigger to use that fund. And if it's not being used, you don't use it, you lose it. So I think if the manager's gonna do something, the manager of Parks, Recreation, Leisure, then he should make this a priority. So I agree, we can go through this. I know that has to be put back in there, but I have some other projects that I'd like to address.
Where are you seeing this?
Page 3. You go down to Trails.
147.
Trails and pathways. Trails and pathways. East Royalty landfill.
Okay.
650, nothing spent to this. That's why you need these updates, and I appreciate it, sir. So that's what I wanted to clarify.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Brown. Lane?
Chair, just through to Mayor Brown and Councillor Bernard. So just to clarify on that report that I provided this morning, under page 2, which the pages aren't numbered there, the project reference for this is East Royalty Lagoon Park Development.
Okay, and where, is that in Parks and Recreation?
That's in Parks and Recreation
Okay,
under Park
so
Development Plan.
147,000. And only 15,000 was spent. But there's also the lagoon site, which is the remediation that he's concerned about also, correct?
It's already been remediated. The only thing I found is when they took the old park equipment out of Bonnie Blink and put it into this new park, the old park still needs remediation done. It's a small area, but that's supposed to be turned into parking, so right now there's no parking. There's a continuation of a plan here, and it looks to me like it's not gonna continue.
Well, no, we'll make that recommendation to council.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Elaine, continue, or, excuse me, CFO
Thank you,
again?
Chair. Just one comment through to Councillor Bernard. Just with respect to senior administration, what's been recommended, I think there is full recognition that a lot of those projects that kind of fell off the plate because there wasn't enough pot of money to do, not that they should not go ahead, but just in terms of this fiscal year, that what would be manageable this year. So not to say that there's a spike in the project through the heart. It's really just a matter of timing and priorities for this fiscal.
But I've been around here long enough to know, Dan, when a project gets dropped 1 year, stop by hardly get it back for next year. And I mean, if there's money already been approved, this we talked about before, if it's already been there and it's not spent, it should carry over. I'm not looking for 600,000 or 300,000. I mean, the project, my understanding is to finish it. It's 300,000. Don't need to finish it this year, we just need to continue moving along.
Yeah, and certainly there's, with the numbers that we put forward as what we think is manageable, the $50 million mark, there's still certainly latitude above and beyond what we've recommended, so there's room to maneuver there, so certainly something that you
So
and
maybe,
council can
Mr. Chair,
discuss.
on that, I'd put at least 150,000 in for that particular project, East Road Lagoon Park Development.
Can we put a notation around that?
Sure.
For the question?
Well, but I think we have to look at the whole budget.
Yeah.
You do, you do.
I can't, as soon as we start picking fruit from the tree, we're gonna be into a little bit of trouble here, so
Okay,
unless
so
you have a
let's-
big basket under your desk there, take care of that fruit we pick. Anyways, let's
Go ahead,
let's look at
Mike.
the totality. Cause I have some questions.
All right, basically just going back to, just my brief overview on kind of how we got to where we're here. So, I identified the projects, what we first received, a review by senior admin. And I guess the question is to the chair and through to the committee, how they want to proceed going through this document, because there are quite a few. I can go through each of the projects one by one. I have a link to the project sheet here on the screen, or if you want to address any specific projects.
I think where I'm a little confused, to be honest with you, it would help me a lot, is projects that have been approved and started. Are we carrying that over automatically, so is there so much that's put in for that, before you look at the new projects? So if that's the case, then how come there's no money in for this project? How come that's not carried over? There was 147 in the budget last year, only 15,000 was spent. So which tells me there should be 135,000 carried over. So there shouldn't be zero here. When we're looking at it, it's like there's no money in the budget for that project. Does that make sense, Lane?
Maybe if you brought up the project sheet, we could see where
Sure.
that might have gotten missed,
Okay,
because,
so again, sorry, CA,
yeah.
are we going project by project, like, I have some questions about the fiscal servicing of this budget and previous budgets.
And
Like,
that's why I think this would tie into
So-
this.
Well, no, it doesn't tie into it.
So if we could then, let's continue on. We know there's clarity around this one, but let's go through and just see where we, I guess, have to circle back to the,
But I think, Mr.
thing-
Chair, if we knew what was already carried over, we know that that's going to move ahead and the project already started. I think that would take a lot of questions away from what's
Well,
been
I
recommended.
have some questions too about what was carried over too.
Yeah.
Like, again, I thought, again, Lane, I apologize for interrupting, but you started your presentation, I just wanted to hear the end of his presentation. Is that all right?
okay, that's what we can do, so.
Mr. Chair, just to the mayor's point, Lane's asking for clarification on how you want to go through it. Because, as per Councillor Bernard, one of the things that we contemplated in this exercise, and with the exception possibly of the lagoon project, was that we automatically considered projects that are already underway as part of our evaluation, so that they continued into the
Right.
next budget. That was one of our 4 criteria, projects that are already
So
in the
this may have
way.
just got missed.
So the lagoon one might have gotten missed because there wasn't an understanding when the Parks and Rec manager explained that. That's why we're here. But I guess the big question, Mr. Chair, is how do you wanna go through this very large list of capital projects? I mean, that's the question.
Yeah, let's go through it by department.
Okay. So if we start at the very top, and there's a couple of larger projects obviously that are considered a department of their own for the sake of accounting for it within this capital budget document, and the first being the East Link Center. So I'll let Dan jump in on this one here, but we did reflect the capital submission that was provided to this committee on February 5th. So that's tied to the cash flows. As you can see, it's reflected in the remainder of the 5-year plan. And Dan, Chair McAleer had asked me with respect to the adjustment that we did for the 25-26.
Thank you, Lane, through the chair. So the way the spreadsheet was set up, we weren't able to kind of manage all the different possibilities of how the funding might unfold. So the Eastlink Management Committee made a presentation and revised their capital request, which included $2.6 million, I believe, for some engineering drawings, along with a number of other capital updates that some of them were structural, boiler, some things like that. On review, there was only one of the senior administration team that supported that overall capital budget, but I just wanted to clarify that there were some smaller items in that budget that may need to be addressed, just in terms of having priority, because we need to maintain our existing asset. It's a key asset, and need to do that. So that's reflected in the net about 500,000 of amount that's left after the adjustment column there, column F. So I don't know, Lane, can you pull up the capital budget sheet for that one? Sure. There, the project sheet.
The detail was attached below.
Yeah. Oh, there it is, okay. Yeah, so in that 500,000, there were things like, there was discussion about a generator and a backup system for the heat and refrigeration. During Fiona, they experienced quite a significant loss because of the loss of power. They ended up with leaking through the pipes with the change in temperature. So those two items were things that I think council should seriously consider. Some things like end zone netting, which would have some safety implications, and the air exchanger, decommissioned boiler from the maintenance room and roof, heating system, replace pump and pipe, and some garbage receptacles. And a number of the other items like the architectural and engineering design, power door operators, boardroom, office furniture, and those other types of things were kind of removed from that piece. But I think council may want to consider some of those other things in addition to the overall ask. But it was, I think, generally senior administration's feeling that the engineering design component would be best done at such time as we had a funding commitment from funding partners to move forward with the project before we spend money in design.
My understanding is, Dan, that, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, my understanding was we needed design and engineering design to be able to go and get funding. We had to have something to show potential partners what we were looking to do with the renovation. So you kinda can't do that unless you have design and engineering design done, was my understanding anyway.
Yeah, just to clarify on this point for the record, what we're kind of talking about here, and I think everybody perhaps recognizes it, but just to clarify, there, you know, if we back up, there was a $25,000 ask to this committee, and ultimately went to council for John Abbott and his team to find out what interest there would be. There was an RFP sent out to see what it would cost to do the, I guess, the design drawings for this for considered expansion of the Eastlink Center. That was sent out, and there was replies come back for that tender, and of which the lowest bid was 2.6 million. So that's the 2.6 million is about what it would cost to get detailed, in-depth drawings done for the proposed expansion for the Eastlink Center. And as Councillor Bernard just reiterated, there's some discussion or clarity on, you know, do you do that in advance of knowing who your funding partners are, or you know, or does the city and this committee, and ultimately up to council, decide, you know, do we want to spend 2.6 million, you know, off a budget to Eastlink Center to get these specifications and drawings and detailed drawings to see what it would actually cost to do an possible expansion of the Eastlink Center, and what would the funding partners look like. So it's kind of chicken and the egg kind of thing. So it's you know it's a big ask. So it's going to. Here it is, you know, in this process, so we'll have to see if there's an appetite and continued support for that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair, but I think that when Mr. Abbott was here with Philip Matasavage, they said, look, we are looking at those other projects like the backup generator, we want to put them to the side, unless I misheard him, and go ahead just with this project. That's what I thought. So instead of the 500, or the difference between the 2,431,000
And the 580.
and the 300 or the 3,011,000, we just take the 2,000,000.5. That's his ask for the renovations. That's my understanding. That's what he said. He said park the other stuff until we do this.
Through the chair to your worship, you may be correct in that. This is the document that Mr. Abbott left with us at the meeting, which indicates the 2 million for the drawings, but also a number of other items in the 25 column. So we could clarify that with Mr. Abbott.
Mr. Jenkins, through the chair, I think he also said that if we do these engineering drawings, that we might find other issues that we might have to address, so we package them all together in one package in subsequent years. So that was my understanding. So I'm not looking at 3,011,000. I'm looking at 2.4 million. And I'd say keep that in the budget. Yay or nay?
I would say keep it in the budget for now.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, it's gonna have to be worked on in the building. My understanding is that once the drawings are done and we have them, you know, at least you're there, ready to go. And if funding comes down the pipe, you can move on it right away.
Let's work with that then, leaving it for now. The 2.4.
We just have to figure out, Mr. Chair, going through to this is obviously the recommending body going into council chambers, so how do you want to present the changes in this document to council?
what we've
Like
done-
whatever's decided today is going next door. So how do you want that to be shown?
What we've done in the past is we created a separate column to add, delete.
Okay.
Like, if I could just say, Mr. Chair, if we're talking about external operations, Mr. Jenkins and I both attended the Bell Alliance Center's stakeholders meeting. Now, I know on page 3 of our spreadsheets, they're asking for $1,046,000. Remember, the president and her VP of administration said, we're not putting anything in until we find out where they where will they be accessing money? So I would say, drop that million for Bell Alliance. And wait until they get their partners. So discover, reach out to new partners, and I know our CAO is former general manager of that facility, and I'm sure she understands that there's some issues that have to be addressed, but that was the indication I had from the meeting at the last stakeholders meetings, that let's park everything until you guys find other sources of revenue. ACOA, federal, provincial, private, you name it.
So, Mr. Chair, through to the mayor, does that mean they're not acknowledging their 13% responsibility towards the operation?
Again, and Mr. Jenkins and I were there, we were just saying, press the pause button, okay? Let's see what else is out there. That was and you know what, Sue? It would be more than 1 million, because I think they were asking for 4 million.
If I may, just clarify that, there is an error on the workbook. The Bell Alliance did come back with a proposal to finance it through Bell Alliance Center. And that 1.3 million that shows up is just the cash flow needed to repay the debt in the first year. The way the accounting rules work, because it's a controlled corporation, we're actually responsible to set up the asset in our books and depreciate it, and so the actual capital ask is 7.14 million. So it's more significant than that.
Finance it for $1 million.
We'll have to fix that up this afternoon.
Mr. Jenkins, do we use capital budget, Lane, to finance? I thought that's an operational issue.
That's correct, yeah, so that this needs to be fixed up.
Yeah.
So the actual capital ask for 25-26 from Bell Alliance now is 6.362 million, and then next year at 3.697 million. So we'll have to revise this because there is quite a difference there.
But I'm just trying to clarify. So what the president and her VP of admin said, find out what else is out there, and I think you also suggested that maybe you can finance this yourself. So this 1 million that's there, 1,046,000, that would be part of financing the 7 million, 6 million, whatever it is.
So that would just be the monthly, 12 monthly payments on the $7 million loan.
Right.
$8 million loan.
So do we take it out of this and put it back into operational?
Yeah, the 1.3, the interest component of that would go back into the operational budget, and really the capital ask for this year is for the city's share is 6.362, which is 80% of 7.473 million. So
you're adding 5 million?
87%.
You're adding 5 million to that.
yes.
Yeah.
And the university's already agreed that they will be doing their 13%.
Well, as long as the budget gets approved, I think the university is obligated to pay their 13%.
So we're gonna add 5 million there. Okay.
And
So I
what,
apologize for that, but
Yeah.
that is an oversight.
okay, and that, cause I'm seeing the 1,046,000, I'm not seeing anything else in the 5 million.
No, those are numbers that are coming out because of
Because we asked them, Councillor, to finance it, which we've never done before. The city has never asked Eastlink Centre or Bell Alliance, well, maybe Eastlink Centre, but I don't recall us ever asking Bell Alliance Centre to finance their own projects, other than one from a few years ago for energy audits. They generally just come to the table for capital asks, and we do our 87%, and UPEI does their 13%. And we always have added in, Bell Alliance Centre has their own capital sinking fund. That's from all of their tenant revenue. And so they always come to the table, they take that off the top of whatever their capital projects list is, and then they ask to do an 87-13 split on the remaining balance. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that we've said, see if you can finance it more.
I think that sinking fund sunk.
The tenants revenue,
It's not there anymore. It's gone.
what do you mean it's gone, and we still have tenants revenue? Pardon? They spent it on operations?
Yeah, well, capital or
It's sunk.
operations budget.
So, that's good there. So what's the 5 million for that they want capitalized, what's that for?
Operation.
Yeah.
Right?
Through the chair, so the main request is for replacement of the dehumidification and the refrigeration for both rinks. So it's the main mechanical system for both rinks is what they're looking to replace. They're 15 plus years old, and they've had engineering studies done to say that they feel that they're at risk of failure, and to prevent loss of use of the facility for an extended period of time. That was the recommendation.
Basically $2.5 million for each rink.
A little more, yeah, it's over 2 years. That project is 10.5 million dollars. And if we approve the capital budget, we're on the hook for 87% of that.
Okay, so that $1 million that I see here in capital, is that going up to $6 million?
6.3, yes, 6.362.
We might change some ratings.
Or increase the capital budget.
Okay, Lane, can we?
Yep.
Move around, please?
I think, just before we go, I think Sue had a question there. She was asking, how does this go into council? And I think
Yes.
you know, you can continue with this, and then whatever the committee change is made, you put that column in.
That's what we've done in the past.
Mhm.
We've added that extra column.
Okay, Lane?
Oh, yeah, sorry, Mike.
Okay. My apologies, we'll get that Bell Alliant corrected. So the next department there, or the first department, I guess, is Environment, Sustainability and Transit. So the total request was just over $25 million. You see there's a list of projects there, all relatively smaller, street and park tree replacement, active transportation infrastructure, bike share program, downtown tree pits and planters. There's various projects there. I'm not gonna go into each of them unless there's questions, but we've broken this out into environment, sustainability, and the other area being transit. So transit is obviously the larger one at play here right now with respect to the buses and the new.
Where are you at, Lane?
Oh,
We
sorry.
jumped down, do we?
Page 1.
I know that.
We're in environment, sustainability, and transit.
So you jump past Public Works and,
No, no, no.
It's the
Just to page 1.
well, I got Trails and Pathway.
Go up to page 1.
Are you in the
Yeah, it's there now.
spreadsheet? for-
Sorry.
There now.
Sorry, good now.
No
Yeah.
worries.
My mistake.
So we broke it out into environment, sustainability, and into transit. So with respect to the buses and the construction of the new transit facility, so those figures in there are need to be updated. We're waiting for a response from our partner funders to determine what the level of funding that's gonna be provided for that, which will determine our total cost and the cash flows for the 5-year plan for those projects. Any questions on environment, sustainability, and transit?
So, Mr. Chair, if Lane, so the ask for transit, if I go to senior administration recommended, 4.5 million. It's in your column over from total budget.
4503
Yeah. So Lane, are we asking for 8 million, 8.8 million, or 4.5? I'm just trying to find out what the number is.
So that will be the determination of council at the end of the day.
But for you right now, are we looking at 8.8 or 4.5?
So 4.5 is what's being recommended by the senior administration based on their review of the projects.
And is that for buses, or is that just for all the items above that?
That's for buses and for infrastructure.
Infrastructure being the construction of the new transit facility.
You want help?
Help.
The other infrastructure pieces, bus shelters or other aspects, there's nothing in there currently for the electrification of the depot in the recommendation. And again, we're waiting to hear back from our funding partners. And there'll even be an adjustment to the bus line that will probably reduce that by another 2 million if that funding becomes available to purchase buses.
So, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Richard.
No, that's that's pretty much it. You'll see, once we get approval, if we get approval from our federal funding partners, there'll be adjustments there. And it'll likely be about 2.5 million to move us forward with transit capital into the coming year.
So the 4.5.
And that includes partner funding, that number,
So the 4.5, Richard, could be 2 million?
2.5 probably. It's 2.5, about 2 million for buses, and then the 400,000 for the other infrastructure related to transit.
Okay, so Richard, we're taking the money that was going towards electric buses, correct? That's what you're renegotiating?
Yes,
Okay. Okay,
as well as the transit facility, to see if that funding can also go towards the purchase of future buses.
but
that,
just on the December 10th meeting, the chair, I don't think he said this on his own accord, he must have had advice, he said, concern was raised regarding budgetary restraints as a result of an additional approximately $5 million. Councillor McKinnon indicated that if the amount is not approved, $10 million of the ISIP funding allocation would be lost. He didn't just say that on his own, I'm sure he took advice from yourself or someone else. So, Richard, like, we've already pressed the pause button on this. Why is this dog still chasing his tail or her tail? Why don't we just park it? Like, and wait until we get confirmation that we can change the agreement. Personally, I don't think you can change the agreement.
we have ones already.
Well,
That's how we got the other diesel buses.
that wasn't for electric buses.
Okay, excuse me, Richard, could you speak to that, please? Thank you.
Sure, Chair, we're just waiting on the final approval. It has already gone through a couple of levels of approval at the federal government level, and we're just waiting to hear back on that final stamp of approval for the change.
Well, that could be a few months, could be next week, right?
That is the hope, that next week or within this budgetary process, but I mean, when we hear back, council will be advised.
Since we've already pressed the pause button on this, I think that 4.5 million, you can press the pause button on that too. Take it out of there. Because we don't know, wait until we get the confirmation.
So some of it's already committed money for buses that will be delivered in the coming year,
Electric or diesel?
diesel.
Oh, you've already ordered diesel?
Yes, that was already approved by council a year ago.
That was already approved back in May,
Yes.
and that money was already designated.
But we need it we're gonna need to pay it in the coming year, so we need to budget for it.
Well, no, we already budgeted and we approved the resolution in May. I read that resolution out here at one of the meetings.
So in order to have that money available to pay out next year, that's part of it, that's a carry forward project.
Wow, so we pass a resolution and we don't have the money, we wait until 6 months later. Could I just ask, how much is that of that 4 million? 2?
It'd be a million of it with partner funding, probably, that's.
Subtract
that's
that
about
from
right.
the 4.5 and park it. That's what I'm saying, until we get it.
But, Mr. Chair, it brings you back to, if we've already budgeted this money in the previous budget, does this not carry over? Are you adding this to our new capital budget? Because it's already been approved.
And just for clarification, Chair, through Councillor Bernard, so these 4 diesel buses were done, so that was a pivot what was originally requested for funding was electric buses, and we sought approval to order diesel because the lead time was too long on the electric. So those buses are ordered, there's purchase orders issued, and those are on their way. But we have to spend the money this fiscal when they arrive to pay for the buses.
Yep.
So the capital budget is really, it's a spending plan, so it's when we plan to spend the money, and that's kind of why some of the projects are the fire chief moved part of his new fire truck into next fiscal year because he didn't expect that we would only make progress payments on the build, wouldn't be finalized, so some of that got moved into the next year. So what you see in the 25-26 column is really the money we expect to spend on each of those projects, as opposed to whether it was an approved project or not. It's really about the dollars that we're gonna have to send out the door to put those things in place.
No, and I understand that, but what I'm wondering then is so the 4.5 million we're talking about for transit for the buses, it's also in the same line item as the 45 million. So far, we have 45 million in capital expenditures. And this is the argument I keep going back for. If the 4 million is already approved for buying those buses, that shouldn't be part of that 45 million, it's a carryover. The number at the end of the day wouldn't include your carryover, but there should be a number of projects and then carryover equals. Because that's been approved and it's been in the budget as far as the interest, the capital debt payments, all that's, so it's almost like we're subtracting from capital budget what's been approved in the past.
And I understand completely what you're saying, Councillor Bernard. It has been approved, purchase orders are issued for the buses. But the way the legislation is written is that we have to present a plan that reflects our expenditures for the fiscal year. So not what we ordered or what we budgeted for.
Understand that fully. So you know what if the new spending was 45 million and the carryover was 5 million, it would be 45 plus 5, $50 million. If our 45 million was what we were gonna use for capital. So whatever that capital dollars we're borrowing, the carryover is on top of that. And you're not borrowing extra money because it's already been approved, you just didn't use it yet. So that would be my recommendation.
Mr. Chair.
I think it's how we present it, Councillor, to your point.
Yeah.
And if it's money that we're already committed to, that we know the project's underway, I mean, we can highlight it somehow in this document, so it's shown that that's not a touchable. It's something that we're already committed to, money's out the door.
But not the 4
Exactly,
million.
and that
No.
It's only $1 million, because Richard said what's outstanding on the purchase back in May is still $1 million, correct, Richard? Yeah. So could I just, again, Mr. Chair, these numbers are very important in the document, the supplementary document that was provided by Mr. Keno. On the first page, just as Mr. Jenkins says, what's expected, right, is what we're gonna pay, but what's expected is what is actual. So 85 million for the 24-25 budget, that's without any of the deductions from partner funding. And we spent 41 million to date. Okay, so we're not spending everything that we capitalized. So again, I think our numbers should reflect that this is a workable document. And are we trying to hit the same as last year, net 55 million? Or are we trying to hit 60 million? That's, I think, what I'm trying to find out from senior management. What's your target? What's the target that when you all sat around, all of you sat around the table and said, okay, our target for this year for 25-26 will be 55 million net, that is money taken from partner funding, any other external funding. What's your number?
Be 45 million, wouldn't it, right at the top there?
Is that what you're going for?
So through the chair to your worship, so I think last year we indicated going into capital budget that we were hoping to stick somewhere around 40 million. We ended up at 55, which was the approved budget. We'll probably end up somewhere in between those two numbers in terms of what our actual spend on capital is this current fiscal year. So given that spending, we did some rough numbers to say what do we think we can handle in terms of interest and depreciation in this next fiscal year, so we don't run into operating budget problems. And so the 50 million number is there. It is not a hard number. you know, council has discretion to move it up or down. But what we have to do after you pick your projects is to then factor the interest and depreciation costs into the operating budget. So that will have implications for the operating budget. Which, you know, we may have to go back, once we look at the operating budget, to say, you know, are there some things we can add to the capital budget, or are there some things we need to take away in order to make our balance our financial.
But we were always talking anytime we met before, 50 million.
Yeah.
So, and this is basically, you know, what you're saying is with the recommendation, we're at 45 million right now.
Right.
And
Okay.
that's including the carryover, so.
Yes.
It looks at this.
Yeah, and again, there are some adjustments to be made there. Certainly the Eastlink Center is one that we just stumbled on. But also, if we get approval on the transit, the delay on the electrification piece, you know, that 4.5 would be reduced by probably 2.5 million, so. It is this is
moving
just,
document,
this is
yeah.
the first run at it, yeah.
Hey, Elaine, please.
55 million's a target too. Yeah, okay.
Okay, any other questions on environment sustainability?
We're good.
Okay, I won't ask the question again.
What about the transit check? Let's move on.
Okay,
Fire. Chair, fire department, emergency preparedness. So there's 6 projects here that you see totaling a little over $5 million. The larger ones noted are the new fire station design of $2 million, the engine 2 replacement. Chief Tim had identified a couple of projects that can wait until next year, given the extent of the asset we currently have. That's a self-contained breathing apparatus and the firefighter turnout gear. So the total is 3.2 million net of adjustments, and there's no partner funding under that department.
Just a quick question, if I may.
go ahead.
Did we not already do a fire station design, Tim, for the
The
previous?
first part of it, yes. This is a station design, and if there's any land purchase and or preparation of the land, this is what the 2 million's covering. The design is 95-95% done on the station that may or may not.
Okay, so the $2 million is not so much for the design then?
No, it's to finish, it's to potentially have the site and preparation of the
So,
site this year coming.
So when you say the site, you mean purchasing land for the new
That's
firehouse?
what's gonna have to
So
happen.
it's a land purchase then?
Well, not entirely. They gotta finish the design based on the land purchase and our estimation of what needs done, and then the preparation of the land.
So,
If you see the build budget is the next couple of years, where it goes up to 17 million for an ask. That's because we're factoring in the build.
so, just so I'm clear, so when you,
So there's the sheet on it, council.
Just the name of the account.
Yeah.
Design, right?
Yeah, the design is throwing you off, it's just a carryover name, it's a different,
That's not gonna be out Malpec Road.
say again?
Is that gonna be out Malpec Road?
I don't pick them.
No, we have a site.
Should we call that something different?
okay,
Yeah, take design out of there maybe, a new fire station, just leave it at that.
but that's what it actually is, 'cause I thought the design was done, if it's only 15%, we're not talking a lot of money left.
No, and this wasn't intended to just cover the design. I don't know, yeah. Property, no, where's that?
So Tim, am I to take by that the fire station is going to a new location depending what the fire underwriters say?
Exactly, depending what the council says, I'll be bringing forward the recommendations through committee. Committee will go to council and you guys will make the decisions.
So is
And
there-
in that new fire station design of 2 million, it possibly includes an amount of money for land purchase, is that
Yes,
what
and
you're
I-
saying? Okay.
Design work, start of construction, and potentially land, yes, I can definitely put more
So that
information.
should probably be under land purchase. 'Cause Public Works usually does the land purchase, don't they not?
Land acquisition.
Our fire department builds have always been in our budget, but managed basically by public works.
But to be understood on this piece too, like we have a piece of property that the city holds, right?
Yep.
That's worth probably, I have no idea, I'd like to think it's worth $1 million.
Probably.
Plus,
Plus,
Okay, thank you. Continue.
so,
yeah, no, I'm not done. Are you done?
just my last question was, has there been any discussion on with senior management on selling the land if we're not gonna use it. That's probably 1.5 million.
Easy,
Yeah, it was 800 a few years ago when we bought it, but
2017.
that's the intent.
It's money in the bank.
It's city property, so
Okay.
however that works.
Okay.
No, I've asked Mr. Chair that we develop a land bank and we put that in the land bank and then we could reach out to partners that wanna build affordable housing or other projects that would be,
Yeah.
Beneficial to the city.
Great idea.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So again, as Councilor Bernard knows, and so does the deputy, we've been dealing with this new fire station issue since 2019. That's just this council and the last council. But it goes back to 2012, 2010.
07.
07, there you are. So we're now 18 years into it. But we went through, chief, we went through a lot of hurdles. Over a lot of hurdles on this. We went to design, then we said, no, we don't like that design. We walked back on it. We were gonna be taken to court. We have a full design for a fire station. So when I saw that design, new station design, we already had the design. It was done by Sable Arc.
Can you take the word design out of the
Yeah.
description?
No, but
It's all-
but what you're asking for going forward is 14 million.
Those are to build stations, your worship.
What's that?
Those are to build stations.
And no, I know.
Yeah,
Build stations or build station?
there's a couple of years of budgets there, but the fire
You got one or
underwriters have
two?
about that.
You building two new stations?
In this room, yes, that's the goal, but you councillors decide, once again.
Oh, okay. Well, I would just like to park this until we find out what the plan is. Like at the 2 million. Because I think we have to look at what we wanna do. Like chief,
Definitely.
2007, 2012, 2015. It was it was 3 election issues for me, right from 2010. And then we were going somewhere with it. Councilor Bernard remembers the first design was 30,000 square feet we were looking at. We had to take a bus ride over to Stratford Emergency Services to look at their facility, that's what, 12,000? And said, that's a lot of fire equipment.
If you had some chiefs walk through that station, you'd hear your worship, it's just like you're hearing from me, that it's not well designed. Poorly designed for a fire station, it doesn't have the rooms it needs either.
But what I'm saying, my point is that we looked at that design and then there were some other designs.
Yes.
Again, chief, I think we just need maybe we have to deal with the fire underwriter study. Where do we wanna go as a council?
That's what has to be determined, so that's why the
park that
money's
2 million.
been asked for to be in the bank for that decision to be made, so we don't have to wait again another year to actually make that move. And if it is the land that we currently own, if the decision is based on everything I provide, if the decision of council is the land we own, then that money comes down a lot. We don't have to buy a new lot. We've got it.
Yeah, and I think, Tim, I don't know what the new design is looking at. I think what the mayor was trying to get at though is the square footage over in Stratford. And that includes the fire station, the other amenities on that building.
17.
And what they wanted here was supposed to be a satellite station, and they were building it more than double the size.
30,000
I
square.
think we were just looking for,
We
at
had-
that time anyway, I don't know if that's changed now.
To be frank, we had really no direction. We had some initiatives to start a new station, and the land was purchased. We had no idea of how we were going to respond as a department within the city with just adding another station. With our volunteers and our career members and the
Oh, yes,
increase in
yeah,
those,
yeah.
all of that stuff had to come into play. So we needed an underwriter survey to tell us, these are where you should have stations for your growing city, your current and growing city, and here's all the other things your department needs to work towards, or your water needs to work towards. So once I bring that to council through committee, you're gonna have the decisions to make on all of that. They asked for 2 million to put in there. My fault for leaving design on there, that was from last year, is to, if we have the approval through the underwriters and through council to make a move and identify the location for the station, we can purchase the land with that money, and finish the design based on where it's going. Our design, as your worship mentioned, went down from 16,000, I think. How many feet did we?
Square feet, the square footage was 30, started at 30.
30, and in the
Trickled down to
project,
5,000.
it worked down to about 7.
Yeah.
Which, we missed a lot of stuff on our way to 7.
Yeah.
So we need that back up, of course.
So I think maybe you just look at that, funding and land acquisition.
What's that?
Maybe you just put it in land acquisition.
The 2 million?
Yeah.
It's still in the budget.
It's in budget as budget. Can I just make a point as well, and maybe clarify a few things? That's really well. If you see the cuts that were made to fire, there are $1 million from the engine 2 replacement, the 230 for self-contained, the 400 for the rescue craft, and the
Yeah.
150 for the gear. Like, what, the department manager, I wouldn't have done that. All of my recommendations were full steam ahead. The senior leadership team, when we're looking at the full city and what needs to be given and taken, that's where that came into play, and actually, those decisions get made based on the input of everybody in the room. And when we went away, we voted on things, and that's where things landed. But that's the difference between that senior team having a look at what the department managers bring forward and having that balance.
But Tim, I have to ask, like your fast response craft, we had quite a conversation on that last year.
We did.
And nothing was done. And here it is in the budget for, I think it's the 4th year, if not 5th.
It is.
So we're not buying it, so why do we keep putting it in if we don't need it?
We're trying to buy it.
Trying to
And
find
we're trying to
funding
get some partner
partners.
funding as well. I don't wanna spend 500, I wanna get some partner funding.
Which years ago, Mr. Casey did say that he would look to fund it.
Yeah. We haven't been Dan's looked a couple of places, I'm just trying to read some documents that lead that way, but there's not much there, but with the reduction of that to 100,000 is to upgrade the, basically the motors, the power plant on the existing boat and get another.
But that 400 then, that's what we put in last year, right? So that still should be a carryover then. Or no, cause we didn't buy it, it's not
Yeah,
actually a
yeah,
project, yeah,
that's
that's
right.
true, that's true, yeah. Okay. Okay, we didn't initiate anything on that.
That's right.
Okay.
We do have the tender prepared,
Yeah.
and we're waiting to go, but it's gonna be in the
Mr. Chair,
future.
so when we talk about waterways, correct me if I'm wrong there, chief, is that federal or provincial?
Federal.
So Coast Guard is responsible for the waterways, right? They should have crafts down there on the waterfront. Do they have any crafts down there?
No, through the summer they do.
But not throughout the year?
That's what we talked about last year.
No, but that's why we should be reaching out to the federal government to say,
Definitely.
because if we're gonna spend that, we need a partner. And that's their responsibility. Again, here we are going, as you said before, CAO, we're going in other laneways. But, we think that, hey, it's all right to be in that laneway because some people think it's a good place to be. But our laneway is police, fire, public works and so forth, so.
So,
I think
reason we
that I
haven't-
would recommend, chief, look, feds should be on.
Oh, definitely, and we're trying to source that, but
Yeah.
the need for a boat, boats burn, the ones that are down there as well, we put those out. People fall off, boats sink, we rescued 18 people there one year, standing on the side and watching that wouldn't be very good, so we do need the actual capital asset, but we're gonna be looking at getting some funding sources from federals.
so how much does this craft cost, Tim?
We estimated one around 500,000, which is why that was 500 this year.
So why'd you put 250 in when you expect 50% cost sharing from the feds? They're gonna look at our budget, they're just probably gonna say, we already have the money.
Well, I don't, I'm only getting 100 this year.
What's the 400?
The 400 is what I'm
That's-
taking off
Oh, I'm
from my
sorry.
500 ask. Cause I'm
Yes, no.
committed.
Could I just ask,
Geez, can I shake your hand?
Chief, could I just ask one pertinent question and we'll move on with this? On the land that we have
Yes.
now, piece of property we have now, is it certain in your mind that's not gonna be a solution for the next station or stations or whatever?
No, nothing's certain in my mind. The recommendations I'm gonna bring forward, once again, are based on what they've identified with their review of the city and its growth, and
So,
within that zone is where council really has to.
so to me, it would make sense to maintain the ownership of it till we know.
Oh, definitely, until.
Okay,
until
let's
we know.
move on. Back to you, Lane.
Okay, the next area there is information technology. It's 440,000 over 6 projects. A lot of this is updating and maintaining the IT infrastructure.
Maybe, he sounds like some heavy duty movers upstairs. Hope they don't come through the ceiling there, Richard.
Me too.
Yeah.
Lane, maybe you're not in position, but could you just follow up on it, if you can, or someone? On the information technology, we've been talking about the fiber network for the last, again, 6 years. How does that, like, is there a cost in there for that fiber network? I know our Director of Community Services will tell us that, no, the UCC will take over all that and we'll get royalties, so is there anything that we can get from that, or maybe Richard can answer that? I'm just trying to, is it all right to reach out to the director?
There is money within the IT budget for when that network becomes available to us.
Is that under networking modernization? Oh, there it is, fiber network.
Cat
Oh,
6.
cable. So that's our contribution, Richard?
That's some of the
This-
stuff we need to do on our side once the
For this
network's available.
project. And that's it?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we good in information technology?
Just one last question, just on the fire truck, I know this is 2 million and it's 1 million, so what's going, is the truck worth? Is it $1 million truck or $2 million truck?
Probably in between there, but it's not deliverable in 2026. So we'll need some money as they progress with scheduled payments, but we won't need the full payment till we do the truck, so.
So that's the million? Yeah. Okay. Right, thank you. It doesn't happen to be a pump truck, by the way, is it?
It's a combination. It'll have a
What happens to that?
We
Oh, the one we're getting rid of?
Lane,
We'll source island communities to see.
Parks and Rec?
Parks and Recreation is a larger one. There's 2 projects under arenas for Simmons replacement, so I believe that's holdbacks and some final capital costs associated with that project. Cody Banks Arena capital repairs is ongoing repairs as they come up. You'll see there's a provision in every year for that. Park development and playground, so there's 5 projects there that I'm not gonna get into in any detail unless there's questions. Sports and facility buildings of 1.6 million was the
Just on that, there are questions on the East Royalty Lagoon Park development, so maybe this is the time
Oh, sorry.
to address
Yes.
that one.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
in
I was
that.
gonna say, but I think if I read the sheet, I think there was 150,000 last year and they only spent 15, so.
That's right.
I would assume that carries over, there's 135 there now, so just wanna add 15,000, make it to 150. That make sense?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Isn't there 215 being asked?
Well, yeah, it looks to me like that's what he's asked for. I just don't know if that finished, was there any kind of a sheet today to say what the 215 is to go towards? Is that in here?
Yes.
Oh, there's your.
The parking lot development and roadway.
Style pathways, basketball pad.
So the East Royalty Lagoon Park development is 215. And last year it was 150, right?
Well, that old water and sewer building has to be renovated.
147. That's what it was last year.
And I don't know what his plans were last year. I think he was hoping for a pump track here.
There it is, right there. Looking at.
I just think that's, I don't know, I think that's to complete everything in there, but I don't see, pathways are there, basketball pad, park amenities, parking areas. I just like to do my part, I put the 215 in, but I mean, if I have to have cut, put 215 in for now. But it's not 215, it's 215 minus the 135 that's carried over, correct?
Just to clarify, so the planned spend from the manager's perspective is 215 in the next fiscal year. So we include that all there, but you'll see from the forecast spend on the capital that last year we had budgeted 147,000. We expect to spend 15,000. So that the residual would be included in that 215,000. So some of the things that they hoped to do last year would get carried over into next year, but it looks like they're looking to do some additional work there as well. I will say that when we bring this to council tomorrow, the expectation is we'll have all the department heads there, so they can respond to any detailed questions you have on the projects.
So, Mr. Chair, just again, Dan, when it goes down to trails and pathways, East Roley landfill site remediation, 650,000. So that's part of the same park, correct?
I don't know what that is.
No, I believe through the chair to your worship, I believe that's the old dump site.
Yeah,
And
it's the old sewage lagoon. Is it
No.
not?
No, the old, the actual.
Oh, the old landfill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's not the lagoon at all.
No. Did you have anything to add, Richard?
So it is the landfill, the bigger project is the
It says
roadway
right there,
around
East
the
Roley
landfill.
landfill site remediation.
There's partner funding there.
Elaine?
So do I wanna leave that 215 in then? For the lagoon park project?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
215.
And would the expectation be that perhaps will complete itself this year?
That's not all of it.
What's that?
So the spending plan was 215 this year and 100,000 next year to keep moving forward with the project.
It was
And I think the
330.
next piece was better access down to the water at the back of it.
Okay.
Okay,
I think it was 330, was that not the total?
315.
Yeah.
Over 2 years.
I'd just like to know if what's on schedule there, Frank thinks it can be done this year, but anyway, we'll find that out tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, sports facilities and buildings. I think just in the interest of time, I'll touch on some of the larger ones, and again, if there's questions, just jump in. So the multi-sport outdoor facility there of 1.1 million. So that's to replace the Elmer McFadden outdoor sport facility coming at the end of life.
Geez. I'd hate to bring this up again, but has anybody looked at that lately? It's in real poor shape. Real poor. And I mean, I understand that was gonna be done last year and then, but Julie said it was okay to leave it another year. Wow.
Well, it could go back in.
Well, it's in really bad shape.
What's that?
That outdoor rink at
Yeah, put it back in. I
It's
see it
in bed.
right there, 0%. No, wait, what was it?
I mean,
Yeah.
I know we can't keep putting everything in, but
No, you have to put it in
That
and
is-
just go back and cut.
You put it back in, Counselor, to your point, and depending what the total looks like at the end of the day, we'll
Yeah.
have to figure out what we circle back to.
flag it, yeah, okay.
Okay, sports field development and upgrades. So, there's 3 projects noted there. Sport field development, Simmons Artificial Turf Field and land acquisitions.
and is the Simmons Artificial Turf Field, that's one field?
Should point out that the recommendation was to go forward with the planning in the upcoming year, so 300,000 in the coming budget year to have the opportunity to build it in the following year. Whereas the recommendation from the committee was design and build in the current year. So there's a $3.2 million reduction in this coming budget year, so we can get the planning and everything in line to be able to do it into the future.
That's one field. One field.
Well, the design, you do the design for both fields and then a build for one.
No, sorry, Richard, I meant that the ask from the department level was for 3.4,
For one field, yeah.
but that was for one field.
Yeah.
So the recommendation for the 300,000 is to do the design work and see contemplation as to whether there could even be a second field on that property. That would be part of the design work leading into construction, if that was the choice of council.
The only concern I would have is if we don't move on the field this year, like the only time you can really do the field, I think, would be in the fall, because if you're taking out Simmons Field, which gets used all summer, it would be in the fall before you can start to do construction there. So if that didn't happen this year, then it will be 2026, almost 2027 before it gets done. Anyway,
There's no good time to do an outdoor field because it's used non-stop from early spring till late fall. So there's no good time to take a field out of commission. And certainly in the fall when the school's using those fields, on top of our own user groups, fall is probably the busiest time.
But we would have to do a design first.
Yes.
That's our first
Yes, that's
first
certainly the
action.
first
it
step.
is, yeah.
And I think that we would also, it would also require some public consultation on where
So
this field would go.
we can commit to it and then commit to doing the design of that now to try and get that, because it's gonna be till fall anyway, I would suspect, Sue, before that's done.
Wait, now, the design or the construction? The design? Is that what you're saying?
I think by the time it goes to design,
Fall.
the earliest you can do construction, if everything falls into place, would be the fall.
Especially if there's public consultation.
So it's 300,000 going forward for the design, Richard? Is that what you're saying?
That's what they're recommending, yeah.
Good, good news.
Okay, so Victoria Park, 2 projects there, tennis courts and planned development.
I think that project is underway, isn't it, Lane? The Victoria Park, the tennis courts, is that not already
Tennis
started?
courts? Yes, yeah, it's ongoing, it's over the next 3 years, and there was 450,000 forecast to be spent this year. in
And
that
how much was
project.
spent from that, from this year?
Sorry?
How much was spent from the
Uh,
forecast? Is that mostly a carryover?
Forecasting 453 this year. And that's under.
I wonder, is that like so many tennis courts are done and now they wanna do so many more and they need more money?
The budget was 500,000 this year. And 453 spent was forecast to be spent. Remaining scope of work. So asphalt, chain link fence, poles, landscaping.
Okay, so
There's more ongoing work to be done.
Yeah,
is what I-
so the money that was budgeted is pretty well spent, this is another,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Lane, in the sports field development and upgrades, it looks like the summation might not be capturing both of those yeses. I think it should be 450,000 there, capture the 300 and the 150.
Yeah, I think there's a formula error here, it's showing a negative 3.9 on my end. So, let's do this.
So, Mr. Chair, just at that point, Lane, you get land acquisitions, $1 million. It wasn't in last year's budget.
Sorry?
It says Simmons artificial turf field, and then below that,
Land acquisitions?
1 million?
Yeah.
And is it going forward at
No,
1
take
million?
it out.
That was a priority from number 24,
There's a provision for land acquisitions also in Public Works.
right, is that where you pushed it to? Or did you just drop it?
I don't know if there was $1 million here
says
for
no.
each of the 5 year plan last year, I don't have that.
No, there wasn't.
Right,
So can you put that sheet up, that land, is that
Sure.
land acquisition for sport complex?
Sports field development and upgrades.
Or is it for future development of sport field complex, yeah?
Expand new to create new facilities. It's their priority 24.
So that was the new annex land in that we were hoping to do a sport complex, because we have no room to build sport fields and so on.
Yeah. Exactly.
Geez.
I know, well, it was 24 on the department list, so.
Just,
Okay.
just before we leave, sports fields and upgrades, I'd just like to share, I know there's been, pretty effective, and strong lobby with, the football community for turf fields, for Charlottetown, and which, certainly understand, represent, and also, the other user groups. So I was curious to understand, and I thought, well, maybe the best thing to do, which I did, was to call Cornwall and understand what the usage was of their facilities out there with the two fields they have. So I did talk with Kim Muirner last week. She's, I guess, the equivalent of Frank Quinn in Charlottetown here. So I just kind of wanted to understand the usage of their facilities out there as it related to, I guess, whatever the user groups, in this case, probably football and the other groups. So what I was surprised to learn from her was she shared with me, she went back to last year's usage of their facilities, and just to context, I think for those that don't know, there's two fields out there. Both of them are turf. One of them's got uprights, the other doesn't. And they have parking and a clubhouse and and the other amenities. So, but in looking at their schedule for utilization, she shared with me on Saturdays and Sundays. So Saturday last year, from September to December, there were 2 Saturdays where the football was utilized. That's September to December. On Sunday, from September to December, it was empty all day. And Mondays, it's predominantly empty. And the big use for not only football, the big use for their facilities out there is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's heavy usage. And you've got the 2 football teams, the Timberwolves and I guess the Charlottetown group. They whatever compete for time or whatever. Sometimes I guess during those periods there's times where they both like to have the same use of the field. So, and then in the weekends it's there seems to be time available there. So anyway, I was just surprised that there what I would take to be an underutilization of field time for turf field. So anyway, it's and certainly the presentation, the lobby that's been presented to us here at council with Charlottetown Group, I get it. Everybody wants to have everybody like to have home field and so anyway, so, it's a big decision. It's not only a turf field for football, but it's for our other user groups, and it extends the period in the spring and the fall year. So it's one of those core services, and all the 3 communities between Stratford, Cornwall, and Charlottetown, and everybody wants their turf.
But I think, John, I would add to that, and we've been talking about it here in council for at least the last couple of years, where the population has been growing exponentially. Our sport infrastructure has not been keeping up. I don't look at this as a football field. I look at it as a sports field, a multi-sport field. I think it can help with a lot of sports, whether that be rugby, whether that be soccer, whether that be football. I think it can help with a lot of sports.
No, I don't disagree, but I'm just sharing. I just was thinking, perhaps the football community, just didn't have a spot. I'm glad I called.
The information's
I'm
always good.
surprised to understand the underutilization, in my opinion. So anyway, for
I know.
food for thought, for understanding and our big picture here.
Yeah. When we had baseball in to do their presentation, their numbers have gone up from like 135 to getting close to 300. They're two ball fields short. They say within 2 years if the numbers continue to go north, they'll be up before. So that was one of the reasons that we were looking at a lot of that land, but I can see if it's ranked 24th, it hasn't been zoned yet. I think that's in the process of being zoned, so I would think that the manager's looking at to put $1 million in the budget right now. It may not be ready to be purchased. So it's something you can put off.
Yeah, and you know, I might as well let it hang out on the other piece that personally I struggle with in terms of infrastructure. We got a perfectly good, and I get why Simmons makes the good location for the push for this, is that we're we got a perfectly good grass field.
But it comes back to location, where else?
Exactly.
That's the problem.
So that's anyway.
And memories for you, Councillor. You were a flanker there for the Charlottetown Colonel Ray Girls.
We're gonna
74 to 77.
I've I just want to share that. It'll go on to
Playing football.
this is a process, and council will make
I
these
think upgrade
make
the
these
flankers
decisions.
dropped about 20 years ago.
Mr. Chair, just
Wide receiver,
just
no, I
one
know.
more point to Councillor Bernard's comment with respect to the artificial turf. Although the local football club has been very vocal about their needs, at the end of the day, I think as a former department head, I can tell you that an artificial turf always serves us well because of our seasons and the fact that we do a lot of damage to our natural turfs in the run of a year, and the maintenance that comes with that and the amount of downtime that comes with that is probably an operational issue that is putting this on the
It's
table.
needed. It is needed.
No,
I
I
remember
just
as a former touch football player, I remember being up to our elbows in mud at Simmons.
You never played with the Colonels?
And no, I didn't play for the Colonels.
No, I just again just want to share that metric with you, and so we'll see where. Anyway, this will go before.
But it's nice to know that, Mr. Chair, because if the design takes as long as it does, at least they have options for this year.
Okay, thank you. Are we done with Parks and Rec, or are we still working through?
Confederation Landing, I think is the next one. Or sorry, Victoria Park Plan Development. I don't think that was spoken to yet.
Yeah, it's fine. We're good.
Right? Good.
Okay. So Confederation Landing, that's a smaller project there for connection between Founder's Hall and the market in Peaks Wharf is what's in the project description for that one. Under Trails and Pathways, there's 6 projects there. Various expenditures there, so unless there's questions, we already talked about the East Royalty landfill site piece. Anything else on Parks and Recreation?
I think we're good.
Yep.
Bell Alliance, I think we did.
What's your new number in Bell Lines?
We talked about Bell Alliance, so we'll update the cash flow
Just
for
on the
that.
Hermitage Creek one that didn't get full support, there might be actually safety measures that need to be addressed there because of a washout of stormwater infrastructure, so it was reduced down to 50,000 just to address that need, so it might be something for council's further consideration.
All right. Police?
Not at all.
So, and again, like,
No representative here, Connor.
we all know that each department there, they're quoted 1 to whatever, in this case, 1 to 10, I guess, or NR. So if there's,
That's on video.
there could be, there could be a reduction in all these, if some are, anyways, some of these line items, obviously. So Public Works. Biggest piece of the pie.
CCOA.
So going from left to right, 47 is the wish list, and then partner funding, boom, right over to senior administration. An ask of 47 million and a senior administration advisement of 26.5. So it's almost cut in half. So we can go through the,
That's not a figure, John, after what we recommend putting back in.
We've added to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not to Public
Not to
Works.
Public Works.
We've added to the total.
Oh, sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, the 26 is just public works.
yeah, are there, as you peruse, well, I guess, yeah, so the Confederation Center, listing property acquisitions.
So, Mr. Chair, we have $1 million there. Right?
Existing.
2526.
Yep.
I thought when we discussed it, we were looking at a 10-year agreement. Looking at something that would spread it over. And I don't know how much I can say here because it was,
In a closed session.
yeah, so instead of $1 million, it'd be 480.
4.8.
480,000. I don't know how, do we remain in the open about this, or what's,
You have to keep it closed until.
could we put that to the end? Can we just flag it?
Well, I mean, you can make a recommendation to put money in the budget for that. I mean, it's a line item there.
Still flag it.
Let's do flag it.
Okay.
So instead of $1 million, I wouldn't put $1 million, I'd put 480.
That can be added to the line if that's what you want to do.
Just take out the $1 million. Cause that's what was in last year, Paul? No, you weren't here. No. I think that was pushed forward. I don't think that's where we wanna go. Is that all right?
So 480?
And just flag it.
Okay, municipal buildings. Anything,
No, I'd like to go back to property acquisitions. 1.25, Paul? 250,000, that was again from the previous.
Through the chair, I may not be looking at the exact same documents as you folks, and I'll try and answer any questions, your worship.
On page 3,
Yeah,
it says Public Works, Land Property Acquisitions, CCOA, Property Acquisitions 1.25. So last year we put away 2.1 million. I think if you look at the property acquisitions, we only spent
So it doesn't really,
there probably wouldn't be a huge spend out of that original
200,000.
budget last year of 2.1 million.
was there not, Paul, an expenditure for gateway to Charlottetown? Eastern Gateway project? Could we not spend a lot
might have-
buying extra land there?
It hasn't gone through.
But it's committed.
It's been
Mostly,
an
yes.
offer, but nothing has been accepted.
I thought part of it was for the widening of the road.
You're right. Yeah, but that hasn't, the deed hasn't been, the purchase and sale has not been finalized.
But we must know what we're paying for it.
No, we don't yet.
We jumped into a project that needed land and we don't know what we're paying for?
There is some uncertainty there.
Holy, listen.
If you go back, remember what we offered was $1 million for the Charlottetown event grounds. Province went back to see.
That may not be.
No, let me just finish.
No, it might not have been in an open forum, any of that discussion.
But on the open forum, we had to buy that strip of land, right? And I think we were told, again, there was an amount. We don't know that amount yet. Wow, okay.
So that's why the 1.25 is staying in there, we just don't know.
That would be included in that dollar value.
But not 1.25.
No, it'd just be a portion of it.
Yeah, so that's why, put it down to 250.
Well,
We were looking for evaluation of that.
That's evaluation, it's a road now, road's built, we're already driving on it.
I guess the point is it might be more complicated than that as far as what we are actually going to agree on at the end of the day. So we probably better keep some money in there just so we've got some wiggle room.
No, 1.25. Just trying to find,
Okay,
find some
is
savings.
there anything else under municipal buildings?
I'll circle that.
And then, okay, going to page 4, 6.
Just go back, sir.
Okay.
Number under municipal buildings, Mountain Road Transit Building. So we're
Right.
going with 250 for that,
It's repairs,
Mr. Chair?
it's repairs.
Repairs. Oh, okay. Not adding to it, just repairs to it.
Yeah, that's the existing facility and
I know it
yard
is.
that needs work.
Okay, Brownfield Development Initiative. I'm glad that Mr. Russ is here, so we're going to half. Is that what we're saying?
So we were just chatting about that, we probably need to increase that budget so the sum of net cost would be around $1 million for this fiscal year, with an anticipated $1 million in partner funding. So the total budget request would be $2 million.
And that's for where, Mike? For what?
Brownfield Development.
It's a strategic real estate project.
Okay, second last one,
So were we asking to take that 500 and put it up to $1 million?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll move that.
Okay. And can I see the sheet on that?
I don't think there is is there,
That's the backup sheet.
That's it there?
Yeah, there's no detail in that.
just move it up there, yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, sir, I think that's covers some of it.
Okay.
Okay, 4 or 6, corporate energy upgrade, City Hall, anything there to otherwise move to parkades? Can we go to parkades?
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess on Queen Street, there's still a limbo.
Mike, do you wanna speak to that?
On the Queen Street Parkade, the city's continuing to work with the developer that expressed interest. So we've requested an offer be brought forward. So we anticipate a final decision on that in April. So once we have that, we'll be updating council further. In the meantime, there's some budgeted improvements that need to take place on a number of the parkades in order to maintain the facilities to, reasonable condition.
Can I see the Powell Street repair upgrades? Can I see the sheet on that? 3.5 million? So we didn't do anything to it last year at all, did we?
Just a forecasted spend of 115,000 for.
So in the 3.5 million, what do we plan on doing?
That structure, excuse me, Chair and councillors, that structure is not as bad as the Queen Parkade, but it's getting there. There's been deferred capital work that's necessary. Really, you should be into these facilities every 5 years to redo caulking between the floor slabs and sealant on the asphalt to mitigate any salt intrusion and that sort of thing. That parkade hasn't had much work. My understanding, there was a report done, there was significant funding budgeted for it in the current fiscal that we're just ending. But I don't think any action was put forward on doing that. there may have been a little bit just in the last couple of months where we've asked people to go in and do some of the hottest spots. Generally, I was looking at that 3.5 million for the most part as somewhat of a carryover, re-budget actually, of funding that we had budgeted this year and weren't using. But we have bumped it up because the report, I don't know whether the report was in at budget time last year or came in since then.
Okay.
But it does indicate significant work at that facility too it's really capital work that we need to do if we wanna keep that facility for another 25 years. It's a good investment.
So Paul, you say you doing significant money there last year and you just bumped it up a bit, so,
Well, more than a bit, but.
no, when I read
It
that,
was a million.
so was it only 115,000 budgeted or?
It was $1 million, my understanding it was $1 million budgeted last year and not a whole lot spent. I'm
100,000.
Forecasting maybe we'll spend 100,000 by the end of the current fiscal.
Oh, okay,
Maybe it just won't come to fruition and the whole million will still sit there unused. And then pulling a little bit of a rabbit out of a hat, but indicating possibly a 3.5 million. And then if you see the 5-year plan, we need to be, I've got 500 as residual work in 26, 27, and then we do need to, for these facilities, list some capital that we'll do every year for minor work. And 3 facilities right now, every 5 years, sort of, we need to get into a cycle of significant dollars to one of them almost every year. 1 out of 2 years.
That's what we've been focusing on at Queen Street for the last number of years. Is significant
Yeah.
investment, but it's not clicking in yet because
occurring.
we got something else going on. Paul, like, last year it was $1 million, we spent 100, you're forecasting to spend 100,000. Why don't we just put it back down to the million? And then if you're looking at doing like that's 3 million.
Yeah.
3.5 is significant work.
And I think what we probably have to do in conversations the last couple of days is we've got Queen Parkade that really does need some work, and we've got the Pownell Parkade that we shouldn't be pushing forward too many years or any year, but significant work in some of these facilities is probably going to be a reduction of parking spaces, if not a closure, because they're basically a one-way street, and when you're doing something at the entrance, you can't get in. And we're probably not going to do those 2 facilities simultaneous. If my current numbers here match with yours, that's adding, it's about 6 million between the 2 of them. Maybe there is an opportunity, haven't discussed this much with other people, but the opportunity to reduce one of them down to maybe $1 million and keep the other one at
Yeah,
the anticipated level of 3 to 4.
coming from a precast concrete, 20 years background, I've been through that building, and that was, I think, opened in '79, am I correct? Pownell opened in 90s plus.
The dates off the top of my
So
head. I don't know.
precast concrete construction has improved dramatically. This needs, like, we know it,
Yes.
we know it, and that's why I just think if you put that much money out and tender out that much money, you're gonna be closing down parking spaces.
Yes.
You don't get in there with equipment and say, okay, we'll work around it.
But
Like
you're
last night I was-
also on a deterioration curve, and that's what we've seen
Yeah.
with the Queen Parkade, is that a few years ago, it needed $3 million
Yeah.
worth of work, and then a couple of years later, it needed $5 million worth of work, and now it may need $10 million worth of
Yeah.
work. And
Or a
push
partner
that
to
forward
do
a year,
something.
and you're probably 13, 15
Yeah.
sort of thing. So that's the issue with the Pownell Parkade. We've foregone opportunities at the Queen Parkade, and we are where we are. We don't necessarily want to repeat the same mistakes at Pownell, and we are at that precipitous point of we should be getting in there really soon.
Yeah, I'm just asking Dan, just to take it under consideration, like, if the stars line up, hopefully we can get something going on across the street. If not, we're gonna be stuck, like, That's how many parking spots over there,
330.
330, and a majority of them are part of our partnership with Dine Holdings.
90%, my understanding, are monthly parkers. There's not a whole lot of.
I just, Mike, if I could, Mike Russ, anyway, might be a bit of a tough question, but on Queen Street and, and the discussions, like, what optimism do you have that could be a solution come to that or an answer come to that, this year?
I guess at this point, the developer in good faith put forward a proposal and we anticipate that they'll follow through with a formal offer on the property.
Just one last question, Mr. Chair, on the parking. So, through the chair to Manager of Public Works, new public parking spaces, 500,000. Are we looking at a pop-up parking garage somewhere?
There is a public parking, a parking strategy report underway. It hasn't been finalized, so we don't know what will come out of that. If it were to increase our metered zone, we would need capital dollars for new meters. My understanding that parking plan will also look at Grafton Street at our main bus depot there, where 5-6 times a day you've got 3 or 4 buses, only for 5 or 10 minutes, but parked on both sides of the streets. And if you're a tourist not used to it, you don't know whether you drive down the middle, so what might be happening there. Again, it's a very high level budgetary number that's been thrown in there. There's not a whole lot of specifics to it, but anticipating that the report will come and there'll be things that we'll want to do, we would like to have some funding in place so that we're not coming back to you at a future date saying, please move or increase the budget.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mike and that. How are we on fleet, Public Works fleet?
Good.
And sidewalks and multi-purpose trails?
Good.
Okay, stormwater management. Yeah, okay. Gotta be looking up, gotta keep your head up, right? Street lighting.
I have a question.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor Yankoff.
So, just wanna, bring to the attention of everyone, the Victoria Row lanterns. Whether you're going with lanterns or not, there's been no lighting down there for 5 or 6 years. So I do think that needs a bit more of a priority than a 33%. So just wanted to point that out, that there's been a lot of inquiry over the last year about that, and an intimation and indication to people that have been inquiring that this would be on this year's capital budget. So just wanted to highlight that as something that should be important, and hopefully council agrees.
I think the recommendation is full, isn't it? 250 right through.
33%.
No,
No, that was just our voting internally as senior leadership team.
no, but still, it's
But the
not-
200 is still in there, isn't it?
It says sum of net 2025, 2026 cost.
Yeah.
250.
Just going back to what Council Bernard said.
Yeah, but under senior
Yeah,
administration
just have to
recommendations,
look
not
at
recommended.
seniors' recommendations,
It's recommended
and
to you
that's
guys.
what I'm pointing
Yeah, that was
out,
our
so-
scores, but the totals that are in there are our recommendations to you.
Just, so we're talking Victoria Road, so in light of the construction that's going on as we speak,
That's not what
would that be-
I was interpreting all along.
That's
Is
not
that
our,
still-
I'm seeing
that's not
20.
our construction, we still have to light the street.
right, no.
It hasn't been lit in 5 years.
No, I realize that, but would you wait till the work's done before you did the lights, or does it matter?
Another 2 years? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't
Would
think
have
so.
to logistically work the two projects together. if there was no snow on the ground, I don't know whether our electrical contractor could go in there and do the work right now. I would think they might be able to.
Yeah, no, I just,
The street will be open in the middle of the summer, lots of tourists will be there, it's always gonna be a tough one to time, but
I'm not questioning the lighting.
it's short-term pain for long-term gain, long overdue.
With the construction down there on that side, there'd be no opportunity, I don't think, to do that anyway, in the midst of that. We're hoping to finish that for tourist season, right? The Fed.
To have it opened, was not finished.
The contractor will
Till
be
you
off
contract.
the street for the summer,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that it can function, the Confed Center will still be worked on.
Lights on.
I would expect the contractor may move back onto the street in
Yeah.
the fall.
Exactly.
We would probably, whether we could find a point in time in the spring to get a contractor in there. That there needs to be some, it's underground wiring is our issue, it wasn't in conduit. The wiring has broken and failed, we need to bore or dig or something, and it's gonna be a disruption, but.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to street rehabilitation, upgrades is always, it's always a big piece, always,
Just on that though, is it something this committee wants to recommend to council to include or not include?
What, the 250 for the
Yeah.
lighting? Oh, I'm
It's in there.
recommending it.
I don't,
Well,
it is,
I wanna get clear on something here, because,
It's in there.
my understanding is when we looked at these columns, so in the yellow, senior administration recommended. That's where on the top of that line, you get the 45 million, correct?
it needs to be added by
So-
this committee.
Right, so it's not in there, it needs to be added, because the senior management said no to it. It's only 33%, so there's nothing in there, which equates up to the total. So the money's not in there. And I can tell you from being down there, and hearing the complaints, like it is dark. Is there did I hear you, Paul, can it be done or can it not be done during this coming season?
I don't know for sure, Councillor Bernard, but I would expect we'd be able to find some point in time, hopefully, during the fiscal year that we could get that work done. Like I say, I don't know whether we could bring a contractor in today in the middle of the winter and have them work on it, or whether it needs to be a spring, summer, fall issue. And like I say, I'm sure we could probably work with the Confederation Center contractors and have a contractor in there
Let's
right
put it in.
now.
Let's put it in and see if we can make it work, 'cause we
But
did for
it's
2 years.
in.
In?
I think the confusion here is when I go to page 6, Dan and Lane, in the last column of our first table, it has 67,998,000. Right? And then in the next column, it has yellow, senior administration are recommended, there's no amount.
It's on page 1 at the top is the amount,
Okay, so that's the 47 million.
45, yeah.
So have you,
That's with their recommendation. That's where you get the 45 million.
so you're canceling out, it says yes for, go back up to it. It says, well, it doesn't say, it's blank, so it's not going forward in the
I thought we said
budget.
yes to the Victoria Road lights, I can't remember.
See where it says Victoria Road lanterns, it has net 2025, 2026 costs, 250,000. Go to the next column, there's nothing there.
So we're asking to put that in.
So I think it would help perhaps to clarify from your perspective, like, all of the projects are in that 107 million
Yes.
column. And then there's partner funding, and then there was a little reduction in those where Richard's managers and they got together and said we can, this street rehab come down 3 million. So I think the way Elaine has been dealing with your request to add them, that you're kind of looking to add on to what senior administration's recommendation has been.
If senior recommendation didn't recommend it, we're adding it on,
Right.
correct?
Yeah.
Again,
Just wanted to clarify.
Just
that.
wanted,
Yeah, sure.
that's what we're doing.
Yep.
So 250 was
So
added,
250
right?
is
Lane?
added.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the total at top is what's been added so far?
Yep,
2.5?
So I added a column there, column 8, so it's 2.56 million based on what we captured so far.
Perfect,
So
perfect.
we'll just quickly summarize that at the end and make sure
Okay.
we've got everything.
We're also deducting some as we go along too, right? Like we said,
We can.
3.5 million for the Pownell Parkade, I thought, bring it down to $1 million.
I think 3.5 is, I think, Mr. Chair, 3.5 is the actual estimate was done on the.
That's structural damage down there
Yeah.
to
It was
Pownell.
based on the fire.
On the Pownell Parkade?
No, but it was based on your report.
Yes, there was an
Yeah.
inspection done, there was a structural integrity inspection, fire inspection, because there was some exposed material that was under the fire resistant material that is not fire resistant, but it could spread throughout the building, so it actually had some structural work, we had a compliance order in, and like I said, the engineer was down. So that might be, I never saw the total, mind you, but that might be what the estimate was for the repairs, I'm not 100%.
So it's a three, but I think Paul said the 3.5, was that not for a couple of parking garages?
No.
No, it was,
That's just for Pownell.
Just for Paul.
2 million for.
It's just something to think about because, Paul, can you look into it or?
Yes,
I can't see closing
I
down two parking garages.
haven't read the reports and off the top of my head, I cannot tell you where I come up with 3.5 million valuation.
Oh, well, let's cut it all then.
No?
Good God.
I believe it is in the the Pownell Parkade structural review.
Yeah, if it was 1 million last year and I was bumping it to 3.5, somebody fed
That's
me
what it
that
was, yeah.
number.
But did I hear you earlier say, Paul, that you could pull $1 million off that?
I'm saying that if we're going to budget the Queen Parkade at 2 or 3 million, I don't know what the value is now.
2 million right now.
And we're going to budget the Pownell Parkade at 3.5. I don't know what length of time those two projects will take.
Right.
And whether you can back to back them, you probably are not gonna overlap them.
Can't.
So if, if you couldn't spend 3.5 plus 2 in 1 year, then there's the opportunity to reduce.
Okay.
But if you can get out right away and close down Queen Parkade for a month and get $2 million worth of work done, and then get over to the Pownell Parkade and do structural issues there in the fall.
So then
Good luck.
this 2 million is reliant on the deal. Whether we spend it or not,
Do it
we have to.
regardless.
I think the 2 million is reliant on the fact that you want a structure there in 3 years' time.
It's
I thought part of this project was he was tearing that down and
Yeah,
rebuilding.
but that's still,
No, that maple.
Yes, okay.
okay. So just respect the time, we're 2 hours, we got a little runway left here. Street rehabilitation?
Straightforward.
so it's, last year we spent, budgeted 4.5. And we,
Recommend taking 500 out. Where's the gas tax? Did we ever get a proper number of what gas tax we have left? Cause it was back up for like 3 different figures, 3 different times I asked.
I think that's been worked out. I don't have that information with me, but yeah.
So we would have received 3.3 million this year.
I think about 3.4, 5.
And so the question before was, it looked like we should have around 1 to 1.3 from the previous year.
I think what we found out was that it was all pretty well fully allocated, that there wasn't a lot to spread around anywhere else. I think it had been pretty much used up on existing projects, Gateway and some of our major road contracts, I think primarily.
Yeah, okay, it just didn't seem to me that, I think in the last year's budget, they were already expended the money that was coming in.
Yeah.
Which, on what was her name, Mary, or whatever the other finance manager was on the sheet she gave me?
Pretty French.
Betty. The very last, but the last year didn't show any expenditures, but yet we should have got 3.3 million coming in.
Yeah, I think our practice has been to use most of the gas tax funding for road building,
Street resurfacing.
street resurfacing work.
Yeah, with the problem, Dan, we had 2 years of double allocation. We never used it, and when I was finance chair, we just used the one allocation, so it was always carried forward, so we always had some breathing room of at least $3.3 to $3.5 million. And I don't know where it got, I know there was a fair amount on the roundabout, Volga roundabout.
As we got into some of the, as Public Works, and I was aside, but little understanding, get into some combined street street rehabilitation projects with water and sewer.
Yep.
Garfield or somewhere's out there, Harley Street, Seaview Boulevard, some of those areas where you can spend money pretty quick.
Yep.
I think that began to, I don't know whether it fully did, but began to draw down on those 2 extra payments that we had in the last 5-year session of funding. I've got one website bookmarked where it shows our funding over the last 5 years. They've never updated it beyond 2003, 2004 to tell us.
So do we know?
That was the end of a 5-year segment of programming, and there's been talk about how they've revamped it, but I've never heard any fine details on what value the city would be getting.
Yeah, cause when we passed that project, Paul, I don't remember any gas tax money that was in the capital budget when we passed it. The one off North River Road, where the boulevard, we made it into a 2-way street.
Seaview?
Seaview. I don't remember any.
And again, I wasn't intimately involved
No,
in
I know,
it, but my understanding is that along with street resurfacing, which was basically fully funded through Building Canada funds, gas tax, whatever, we began to use some of those extra funds in some of those site-specific street rehabilitations, like Harley and Seaview, and I can't.
No, that's okay, I know you weren't there, so I'm just wondering, do we know how much we have today?
That's what I'm gonna ask.
We have 3.3 million that would have come in that hasn't been expended yet?
I don't have that exact information, but we do need to circle back on that for our operational budget for sure. And I don't think there's a great deal of available funding from just recalling, I think we had an update in August or so. But we'll get that clarified.
So when does the new allocation usually come in?
We get it monthly, so we get a check from the province monthly, and I think our annual allocation is about 3.7 million. And we would have had projects identified for that that we would have submitted to the province. So the work may or may not have been done, and we may or may not have made the claims to support it. But we put that into a separate bank account, so it's separately accounted for. And there's a reconciliation.
You put the gas tax?
The gas tax,
In
yeah.
a separate account, so can you just look at that and see what's there?
Yeah.
Or could it be?
Yeah, so there may be funds in that account, but we may have,
It could be accounted for.
Eastern Gateway, there may have been $3 million of CCBF, which is the gas tax, allocated for that project, and we may not have made the claim on that yet. So although it's in the account, it's kind of not moved over to our general banking account, it's because we haven't made the claim and gotten that approved yet, so.
But when we approve the project, approve the funding, it would show that we're using the gas tax funding.
It does, yeah.
I've been watching for that, I haven't seen that, I've seen the projects being approved, the amount of money and the partnership funding, but I haven't seen any.
There was an email sent out to show what was left in the community, Canada Community Building Fund. So that was sent out just recently. It was sent out by Finance Link. So
I don't remember seeing that.
just resend it. But can I just get to this point here?
Go ahead.
It says street resurfacing on page 4, just on your update there, Lane. Summary of budget 24-25 was 5.1 million for street resurfacing. And to date, as of February 12th, we paid out 3 million. So what I'm asking is, do we, I don't think they're doing any asphalt now, paving now. Do we know what's left in that fund? Can we find out? And
We haven't got all the receipts yet.
oh, no, that's what I'm asking for. So it says your forecast is to spend the 5.1 million, 5.2. all I'm asking is that we're reducing it down to 4 million? Is that what we're saying? Cause you're saying sum of net is 4 million. Guys, this is, every year, this is a problem. It is.
You wanna put it back to status quo?
I'm just saying, just, if you can just, in that column, add a 1.1, 1.2 million. Every year, this is an issue.
So instead of 4 million, it'll be
5.2.
5.1, 5.2 million?
Status quo.
5.16 was what was budgeted, but the actual is only,
That's year to date, but they're gonna get.
there's a lot of money outstanding still. Okay,
They always do.
cause I was gonna say, we
Some of them
might,
are down in Florida.
we might be,
Chase them for it.
we might be budgeting big money and not able to actually execute, so you don't.
Yeah, that's why I wanna find that
Yeah.
out.
But we could expect around 3.7 million in gas tax for this coming fiscal year.
Yes, yeah.
And that's, is that anywhere in the capital projects?
We'll have to follow up on that and see exactly where that stands. Chair, if I may, just on the CCBF fund, it was the CCBF funds that I think Mr. Abbott was referring to in hoping to fund the engineering drawings from. So we did clarify that, but I think in past at least, we've always used that for our street resurfacing and street projects, so.
Yeah, just when it shifted to CCBF though, I think it opened up more criteria that you could use it for.
Yeah, I think we have the flexibility to direct it, we could build a pool with it, for example, but I think traditionally we've used that for road building projects, so.
And that's online. All you have to do is go to the Canada Building Fund.
Yep.
Canada Community Building Fund, you'll see what it's used for. But the province is responsible for dishing it out, correct?
Yeah, they send it to us.
Yeah, they get the money.
Provincial federal agreement.
Yeah, it's not a provincial, it's not a federal municipal agreement, it's a federal provincial agreement.
Could I just confirm here, so Paul, we've got North River Road Capital Drive just as so we've got 1.8 million and we're expected to get, and if that gets done, we're.
It's not being recommended,
Okay,
it's not in there.
but it's in the sum of the net 25, 26.
But it's not in the total capital budget.
Under senior administration recommended.
Okay. So it's not then, nor is the Spencer Drive extension then, is that right?
That's right. Spencer Drive was 0. What was the other one you were looking at, John?
No, that's fine. No, the North River Road Capital Drive intersection upgrade. Okay,
And our ratings, although very low, zeros, are about the current, or the coming fiscal year, not about the project. And if nobody here thinks that we don't need that.
They're all about it.
Exactly, it's about this year.
a question I kind of wanted to ask, or I don't know, it might have been a Mike question, but just on Spencer Drive extension, I know it's a big number, it's 4 million. Does the reality of us continuing to kick the can on that, does that hold up? Does that hold up? There's a whole lot of development scheduled around that part of the town. Does that hold up any of those sort of projects progressing because this infrastructure piece is not done, or is that, anybody know an answer to that?
That's a great question, I think, yeah.
Anyway,
We don't have developers hounding us to find out when we're going to extend and do that. Traditionally, the city has not built streets and stormwater and sanitary and potable services. The developer has done that and then turned it over to the city. The Spencer Drive extension is a little bit of an anomaly in how development occurs in the city. We resurface and rehabilitate streets, but the city creating streets, yes, the Water Street Parkway, but very rarely are we creating streets in the city of Charlottetown.
anyway, which kind of, when you make that statement, Paul, that it needs to be, are you kinda insinuating possibly that developers could possibly take over the cost of doing that $4 million?
First of all, there would probably need to be some funding arrangement with them so that we're seeing that they're cost sharing services, but it's also the fact that the lands abutting us could be serviced via other directions rather than a Spencer Drive extension. That's been part of our issue is we don't know whether we need to put in a water service along Spencer Drive because the developers of the abutting land may be bringing their water in from a different direction.
Yeah, fair enough.
And no use putting it in if it's not necessary.
That, which I guess makes sense if we're not getting hounded on or beat up in the meantime to get it done.
And I say that, not right now, hopefully they don't come to us in May and start when we haven't budgeted for it and start demanding it at that point.
Thank you.
But
So were we proactive
Yes.
and reached out to them to see whether or not they're gonna come to us in May? So we won't get in that situation?
yeah, I think
There are ongoing discussions and we should look for funding opportunities as well as we move forward. And there are potential funding sources, but those funding sources need to become available to the city.
Yep, thank you.
So
That's
that,
fine.
Mr. Chair, so that funding authority, that funding possibility shift Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund. So when the federal minister was here last week, Nathaniel Erskine Smith, he announced that 86.2 million over the next 10 years is earmarked for the province of Prince Edward Island for SHIF. That is to help with water, wastewater, stormwater management. And I just wanna bring it under this one right here, sir. King and Dorchester, the buried power and rehab. There's more than that has to be done down there, Paul, and I don't know if it's just public works, it's also water and wastewater. Some of the lines down there would be pretty old, right, Richard?
Correct.
So SHIF could be a possible funding partner. And not only that, CADC, right, Paul? And Richard, you've been here, they were part of the Queen Street reconstruction, the cobblestones and the trees and, doing it all over. So let's bring our partners back into the fold. CADC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are we okay on traffic pedestrian signals? Not seeing nothing. Urban beautification?
The event safety barriers. I thought we bought one a number of years ago.
Yeah, they
Big one.
weren't safe.
What?
That's what we call a boondoggle.
We bought a safety barrier that wasn't safe?
Just to make it clear, I did not.
The collective we did that.
Yes, we.
Okay. So we did buy one, but it's no good, so we're looking to buy
Yeah,
another
there
one.
was actually two of them, but they're deemed unsafe to use by personnel to set up. Too bulky, you can't haul them. We would need a full-on
Tractor trailer.
tractor trailer to.
And a crane. An old one.
Okay,
So it's not that it's unsafe, it's that we don't have that.
okay, water and sewer.
Set it up.
Yeah,
It just holds
unsafe
it
to
on.
use.
Anything else, or sorry?
Yeah,
Urban
yeah,
beautification?
well, I wanna know what we're doing with the safety barriers.
Okay,
The ones we bought?
Wow. I thought we bought them, but I didn't know they were no good, so now we're buying more, so I'm just wondering, this is for like Queen Street and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
anything.
For events, yeah.
And we
street
can't
events.
use a few police cars or police trucks?
We can't, municipalities used to use just park a truck and do the stuff. But, well, police, they wouldn't have enough personnel to block all the streets that we need, but these barriers here, my understanding are they're portable, pull out,
Like
slide,
sliding
and they'll
out,
stop
yeah.
anything coming in, much like, I think you shared something with me.
I seen them at a conference
Yeah,
a while
yeah,
ago
yeah.
where they,
Mr. Chair,
yeah, you hit them,
This
they
is
dig
Mike's
right,
spot.
is that the ones you're getting?
I'm not sure, but I think it's a similar type.
this event fair uses Mike's
They're
spot.
easy to move around.
Yeah, exactly.
you go to grab him?
What's that?
No, she's just gonna see if she can grab Mike.
This is his fault.
No, he explained it, it's fine, I know the ones he's talking about now.
Just until Mike comes, can we jump to water and sewer and circle back to barriers if we need to?
Sure.
Water and sewer?
Water and sewer, yes for everything. Geez, Richard must have been there for this one, were you, Richard?
There are a
Yes,
couple,
for everything.
there are a couple of
Holy
no's.
listen.
Mr. Chair, I've got a question, Mr. Chair.
There's a couple of no's.
Oh, here comes Michael. Can you give me more information on those barriers?
Barriers, Mike, 350K.
Yeah, so like I said in the report to committee a little while ago, the key part in our efforts to make the Queen Street area safe for some of the larger events is ensuring that we have crash rated barriers. So what is reflected in this budget is a phased approach to bring or have those barriers put in place. And so the process going forward, if it's approved in budget, we would go out to tender to procure these systems and then roll them out this coming year.
Yeah, well, you know, you probably can't be too safe. It's unfortunate, kind of, you know, the world we live in.
I guess the question now is what do we do with the old ones? Can they be sold? If we bought them and never used them, can they be sold? Can they go back to the person we procured them from?
Once sold, sold.
Well, we'd be selling them pretty cheap now that we've talked about it publicly, that's.
Well, we couldn't in good faith sell them as
This
brand.
was a devaluation exercise talking about the old ones, but I'm wondering if there's not actually a repurposing for like smaller events or like the Victoria Park Road, interior roadway or things like that.
This thing is a massive concrete, you've seen them or no?
No, I
No, the
haven't.
steel. The
Well,
steel, there's concrete inside them.
Yeah, they're massive, they're
Apparently need a crane to move them.
20
Yes.
feet long or more.
And where are they located now in one of our
They were
Macklin
down
yards?
at the, by the event grounds.
In
Okay,
the parkade,
Yes, but
in the parking lot.
With everything that went on at Park Street, I'm not sure where they ended up, or maybe they're still down there.
No, they're not.
Shoreline
They
protection.
moved them out to McNair Drive, finally.
So Mike, I know on your report that you gave our department on Queen Street, it didn't sound like it was recommended to use Queen Street for events. So if that's the case and we don't have the electricity and so on, are we buying this a little prematurely?
Well, I would say, and I tried to reflect this in the report as well, but the reality is some of the events that we do host on Queen Street, there's limited opportunity to relocate them. You know, I think of Farm Day in the City as a good example. The size of the event itself limits other options for alternative sites. But that being said, you know, that's something that we could look at in the future, and generally we had recommended that we look at alternative sites for some of the events in the future. But yeah, all things that we need to, and we and council need to factor into our decision making moving forward. I don't know if that really answers your question, but yeah.
And the one you're looking to purchase is the one that's,
It's not that same one, but it's similar to that. I think it's a full stop when the car hits it. It's
But it's
great
e-
crash.
So the systems, yeah, the systems that we have looked at as a team are very mobile. So there's effectively wheeled systems that people would be, we'd have a trailer to transport them, and then you can move them individually on wheels to put them into place. And they're crash rated to ensure the same level of safety as any other permanent system.
Okay.
But again, this is an interim solution. The longer term solutions on the infrastructure side, you know, we would try and coordinate, you know, a permanent bollard system in any streetscape work that we're endeavoring to move forward with. And that would be coordinated with, you know, replacement of our piped infrastructure on the street in the future.
If I may, at $350,000, you wouldn't fully secure Queen Street event zone. You'd probably only be able to do about a third of it. I was including, thanks to economic development, provided with some information, but I was spreading it out as 350 through 3 years, and I said, you know, 250 for a few, 350 for minimal, 500 for a partial, and $1 million for fully secured. We also have Victoria Row where day to day, all summer long, there's a few people, but if we're gonna have the full moon harvest and have that street full of people, that might be a time that you'd wanna send out a little more secure crash barrier to the site when.
It just sounds to me like we're talking about one-off, like the farm day happens once a year. The moon down there happens once a year, and I know, I just got back from Quebec City for the Winter Carnival, the streets they block off. It's 2 police cars on a V and a third one. There's nobody going through. And I just wonder for these events that we're gonna spend this kind of money for something that happens once a year, can we not use the vehicles to block each end? Some of the
An empty vehicle is no good to block any sort of entrance, because when emergency services need to respond, they need to be able to get through. So the empty cars and the empty trucks don't work, and using police as an example, they wouldn't be able to staff, I don't think that many, but all the same, vehicles have been determined to be unreliable for one thing and limit the response of emergency services.
And Councillor, just to your point, and I totally understand what you're saying as far as the value for the dollar at the end of the day, but we're seeing more and more interest, and Mike can probably speak to this too, of people wanting to do outdoor events here, especially now with more cruise ships and stuff coming in. We have a lot more people, pedestrian traffic around the city. There's a lot more activities happening on Kent now than there used to be. Activities on Queen, on Water Street when there's parades. So I think if we ever went this route, we would have.
We grow into them.
We would grow that particular product, I suspect.
New world, look guys.
Bit of chicken and the ant, and again, we know what's happened in other places with not having the right kind of barriers up, so.
So the 350,000 though is not the total barrier.
Not at this point.
It's a number of units, you get a trailer with 8, basically, and then you could buy more, you wouldn't have to get another trailer. We haven't tendered for it, but the product that I was looking at, thanks to economic development, you've got a trailer with 8, and yes, they've got wheels on them and a little bit of a jack that one person can move them around. To have enough units to fully secure Queen Street at both ends, and almost the sidewalks, so a vehicle can't get through, and to secure King Street and Sydney Street and whatever, you would need 25 units or something like that. For budgetary reasons, I was saying, start with a trailer.
Yeah.
And
They're like
then
easy
if they
ones.
work,
Yeah.
and you can use, that trailer would fully secure Victoria Row. And
we have a truck to move the trailer.
Kent Street and that sort of thing.
Okay, alright, thanks.
And further to the comments from our manager and the CAO, part of the rationale on how we structured the recommendations in that report was really to reflect, this stopgap approach in the short term to enable us to, host safer events on Queen Street and some of the other locations. And then as we transition into permanent infrastructure in the future, we're still able to use that, those same mobile units in other locations around the city as this type of event hosting grows.
And again, you know what, the fact that we're talking about it has already alerted us that we need to do it. Look at Germany, look at New Orleans. Like,
That's
don't
what
think
I'm thinking.
we're immune to it. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
And as for those old structures, Paul, maybe we could sell them to Bailey Bridge over there in Newfoundland.
Okay, can we get down to wrap up?
That's scrap metal.
And water and sewer.
Okay.
Everyone likes the yes, man, not. I'm not hearing any, and then 6 of 6?
Well, just on the residential metering, the 400,000, what's, I thought we had all the metering done, residential metering, or 95% of it.
We are at the point where you need to start ordering new meters to do replacements. So the meter has about a 15-year life expectancy.
And this will do how many? 395,000.
It's about that's 1,000 meters.
Wow.
New development, are they putting it in as well?
Yes. So I know, Richard, we discussed this at Water and Wastewater, but we put this money away every year, wellfield protection. We have, how many letters? I think 2 letters into the province about putting forward legislation.
Yes.
We need to really put that money there and wait until the legislation gets through. Like, it's 2 years, I think, last last year, I think it was, no, the year before it was 600,000, I don't think you spent anything. And I know it's something that we can use, but if we need land, an emergency resolution could be easily put together. But at this point, can't we wait for the province?
I think it's a good idea, yeah, we could always come back to council.
Really, I, again, Richard, I just say that because I think we have to push the needle a little harder on this issue with the province. And you've discovered two fronts, I think, wellfield protection around agricultural areas, correct?
Correct.
That falls under the Department of Agriculture. And then the province's responsibility under municipalities, land use. Like, there should be legislation for the whole island.
But I think this is just to keep within our zones, if land comes up, we wanna buy it, right? This is what happened.
Correct. Yep, no, and there's a couple of parcels in particular where we had discussions with landowners last year. I thought at the water and sewer utility, there was a push for us to act or get moving on those purchases.
And so, and we didn't?
No, just at our most recent
Okay.
budgetary discussions.
So it could get spent this year then.
That was my understanding from the water and sewer utility committee, that they wanted us to revisit those land purchases.
But I made it quite clear that we should revisit with provincial support, provincial government support.
Okay, I appreciate the clarification, that
Okay,
wasn't
so
understood
if
at
that
the
could
committee.
be duly noted, then that's a possibility, that could be a part, very good, another year. Deputy Mayor Yankoff, you had a question?
Yeah, for the one after that one, motor vehicles, wonder why they're there when all the other vehicles and all the other departments are under fleet management. So just wondering why
Yeah, just
it's there.
separate corporations, separate
Separate set
revenue
of
and
books.
expenses.
The city corp and then this water utility.
Like Summerside,
Oh, I know there's
electric
two separate
utilities.
corporations, but I still can ask the question.
And we, through the chair to council, Deputy Mayor Yankoff, we do try to, consistent with other municipalities, operate the water and wastewater utility as a kind of a break even, through user rates. So we wanna include most of the costs associated with delivering that service in that entity so that it's
So
easier to
all
track.
vehicles that water and sewer use fall under their own department, every single vehicle, no exceptions.
Correct, unless there's, on occasion, we've asked to borrow one in
Yeah,
a desperate, over the 10 or 12 years that I've been here, we have managed to borrow a vehicle on occasion.
No, thank you very much for the answer.
Okay.
So one more, John, I'm just wondering, the Manhattan Road booster that was put in for $500,000 and then cut to 300,000, so what does 200,000 do for us?
It finishes the project off, it's almost complete, but I think the 200,000 will finish it with our payments into the next fiscal year.
Okay, and again, does that takes us to 6 of 6?
So we have a running total? You have a running total, Lane, on what was amended today?
So 3.6, almost 3.7 million so far.
Added?
Yeah.
Nothing taken off?
No.
Just run through.
Yeah, well, if we're done with the list, we can just go back and highlight the ones that we've adjusted to make sure we've
So,
captured them all.
again, 6 of 6, or anything there that there's questions on? Taking there to be done, okay? Here we go.
So, okay.
So I'll just go through the adjustments quickly then.
Okay.
So under Parks and Recreation, East Royalty Lagoon Park Development, we added back the 215,000, added it to the senior recommendation recommended.
East Raleigh Lagoon.
East Royalty Lagoon. Multi-outdoor facility, multi-sport outdoor facility. We added back the 1.1 million under sports facilities and buildings. Under land and property acquisitions, we noted 480,000 there for
Okay.
for Convent Center.
Is that the 480 over 10 years?
Brownfield
So-
redevelopment initiative, so we've added $1 million there. Victoria Row lanterns, 250,000. And street resurfacing, 1.1 million. That's all I have.
Good job, Lane.
What about what did we do on the East Link renovation? 2.6 million.
It's still there, isn't it?
We still have to adjust Bell Line Center too, right?
Yes.
So that's gotta be factored in.
So,
Oh, and we adjusted East Link Center.
yeah, that's what
We
I
put
thought.
the East Link Center, did that not go back to 2.4? Wasn't that the agreement?
2.4, 2.6.
Yeah.
2.4 because they added, it was an add-on for emergency generator backups and some other.
580 is
You're
what we,
basically saying take all that out.
That's what he said. He said, we'll just go with the renovation.
he meaning the
John.
GM.
John Abbott.
So,
Call and find
so I
out.
think the carry forward then for East Link Center was to be the 2.431. Is that correct? Is that what you asked for? Committee?
Yes.
Yes.
The 80% of.
Call him and confirm that.
Yeah, go ahead.
You just called a minute ago. Oh, shit.
So the total is 6 million. So that brings us up to 51.8 million. And I think we estimated, Dan, another 5 million for.
So it's,
Keep talking, John.
5 million in carry overs.
I can add that in right now.
Sure.
Okay.
They're just doing the math on carryover.
So, Mr. Chair, just while they're doing that math, I asked Lane before the meetings, from our audited statements, and as of the end of March 31st, 2023, under audited statement, our audited statements, we've spent 51 million in capital. And for 2022, 2023, we budgeted 64, that's minus the partner funding. And if you look at up to this year, we budgeted everything included, no partner funding excluded, was 85 million. Up to February 12th, we're at $41 million expended, well, $42 million. So I think the administration does a great job in how we expend our money, and I appreciate that. But I also look at the money, Dan, that we pay down on our debt servicing. If you go back to the 2023 budget, we had combined about $9 million set aside. For 24-25, I think it was over close to 14 million. So it went up, our debt servicing went up by 5 million. So I think finance administration is doing a good job in, trying to put a hold on what we spend or what's available in the capital budget, but what we have to put down on debt servicing. So I think, there's a good balance there, and I just wanna say thanks a lot for doing that, because that's what we need to do. And I know you don't always like our eyes on the budget, but our eyes reflect the eyes of the community.
Well, your eyes ultimately are accountable at the end of the day. We acknowledge that. Yeah.
Well,
John is saying that that list that Dan put up, that still goes. He took out the things that they, like the plant stuff that's already out of that. So it's a 2.4 plus that list.
Well, you can't get both.
I know. But you might
He's
wanna
looking
pump
for
that
the
back
full
up
3,
again.
you're
Well, no,
saying,
I-
Counselor? He's looking for the full 3 million?
From what I saw,
3,011,000?
repairs and maintenance should take the priority from our perspective, I think, cause we'll be on the hook for them.
3.764.
So that EV system and
Should be 3 million.
I think
Yeah,
that's.
so
Can you bring
he's-
that list up
I'm
again
showing
that
3
he put in?
million, 3 million and change
Yeah.
is our share of that.
Yeah, so he said the first column.
3.764 million, but I think our responsibility would be for 80% of that. The province would cover 20. So that's 3 million and a few pennies.
Does the province cover though 20% when it's just arena side?
Well, that's what I question, because the green is their side.
The, like, I'm not sure if we get 20% on our asset. I don't remember that from the CCCMI agreement. I think we look after 100% of our arena side, I think so, yeah. Yeah, so we'll have to clarify that, because I don't think the province pays for any of our infrastructure improvements.
Not the rink, not the rink, so we own that. I know they have good relationships between the two of them back and forth, but I'm not sure what.
Like,
that
the
number.
funding of the management agreement operationally is an 80-20 split, but when we're repairing our asset, it's 100% ours. If they're over in the trade center repairing, the province is on the hook 100% for that, because that's their asset. So I think whatever we're factoring in here has to be the full amount if it's all arena work.
So it'd be 3.764.
3 point what?
764.
But a lot of that is new. He wants to make improvements, changes. So this is the year where maybe say we can do all the maintenance and repairs, but it's not time to change bring his list up again? If you can do that.
Well, the new is the
Engineering.
overhaul, the engineering overhaul of the whole
The architecture and
venue,
engineering design, yeah.
which is still a city,
2.6 million.
like, they're not planning on doing anything to the trade center side, are
Oh,
they?
now it's 2.6,
Yeah.
not 2.2?
Yeah, I didn't think it was, I thought it was 2.6 all along.
But that is a new project that they wanna complete, and I get that, but he's got some things listed there, accessibility, safety and security, emergency preparedness, maintenance and repairs. Those are the line items I'd be looking at this year if we're trying to be, you know.
Which ones?
The accessibility, which would be 150,000, I think it is, power doors, generator and backup systems for 515, and then the maintenance and repairs there, the total, come on, Dan.
Hockey end zone netting would be a safety item.
That stuff and the other,
Air
like,
exchanger, decommissioned boiler stack for maintenance room and roof, heating system, replace pump and pipe. And there's some, yeah.
Oh, so you're saying do them all?
Do
I'm saying
those.
do the repairs and maintenance. Those three headings, accessibility, emergency preparedness, and maintenance and repairs. It's my suggestion.
Although that's what that's what our recommendation was from the beginning, and that was the 580,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I'm saying that's where,
So they're saying 580 plus 2.6.
That's right.
Anyways,
yeah, the new two is what's fitting in.
okay, so it's 3.1.
Well, what we don't know is that if the big ticket item, which is the over 2 million part, if that's all, if we're on the hook for all of that, or whether that's going to get split with the province, that's the question. All the repairs and maintenance, which is the 580, we're on the hook for that 100%. So if that's what that adds up to, then that's fine, but if we're going to tender on some major design work, is the province helping to pay for that?
It's the full building, right?
It is. It's the rink.
It's just the
No, I
rink?
think it's just
He
the
he
arena.
says that he has verbal on that, but there's nothing in writing.
From the province?
For the 20%?
I don't know what I'm at, he just said he had, I'm talking about the.
For plan design, it's
design,
2.625.
so, yeah.
Yeah,
And then for the maintenance work, it's 500,000. Correct?
580.
580, I think is what we,
Well, here we got 3,011,000 for
Yes.
Eastlink.
Yeah. So if you guys wanna go ahead with this design work, then we have to put the full amount down in the budget.
I thought we put in new arena lighting when we did it for Canada Games. We had 75,000 there for new lighting.
That was done through, I think, Counselor, the Honeywell energy project.
So they still need another 75,000 for arena lighting? I mean, pull some of that out of there, I would think.
Could we
Well,
not just
if-
go what you had there, Lane? 3,011,000? I thought it was one, not both, but anyways, let's put it,
Just put in the
Do
3
you want
million.
the full budget request, you want
Says-
that brought forward?
3,011,000.
Just break it at each, that 3 million.
It's 2
And we'll get-
2.625 for plan design, so the difference, I guess, is.
Yeah, well, we'll have to flag that as far as who else is at the table, but you wanna carry the whole amount forward, is what you're saying.
Councillor Lang, or Deputy Mayor, you had a question?
I know, I have to,
Comment?
oh, I know what it was. So we've agreed for this one turf field. And so I know, our CAO talked about, there's been a lot of inquiries around this focusing on football. But I just wanna make it clear, if I heard it correctly, this is not just for football, this is for
No.
everything. So we need to, I just wanna make sure that that narrative is out there, because that's what we went through with the basketball. Now they're called basketball pads, even though they're for everything else, so everyone thinks they're just for basketball. So I just wanted to just flag that.
No, that's a very good point.
So,
And that's something maybe JP can help us with if.
You might understand right now that the budget, we're looking at 57 million.
Oh, James.
yeah, I believe so.
Is that right, Lane?
I'm sorry?
Are we at 57 million
Yes,
with everything in that we said?
that's what we're saying. So that's the 45 senior admin, and then our adjustments today brings us up to 57.
Got Carrie in there too.
Pardon me?
It's Carrie in there.
For all that,
Carrie is in there, yes.
And external funding, does that take into consideration all the external funding?
and your gas tax not off that. So you have another 3 million off that or 3.5 million off that.
Okay,
Yeah,
are
it takes into account all the
we
external
good for-
funding we identified here.
No, not yet, because I wanna get clear
Okay.
on this number, those 57 numbers, that still has carryovers from projects that are currently underway. Is that part of that 57 number, it's a 57 plus?
So the expectation is that when departments would look at their budget, their capital budget, their forecast for this year in terms of estimating what they're gonna spend, and then look out to next year,
I am,
if
but I never.
if the money wasn't spent this year, if they don't think that they're gonna make as much progress on a project as they think, then they would have to account for that cash flow next year. So
It's new money.
so when I look through it just under that lens of what's underspent this year versus next year, I estimate there's about 9 million in there that would be considered as like carryover. Basically, the funds were pushed forward into this year to account for any delay in spending from projects approved in 24 and 25,
So you're estimating around 9 million
around 9 million.
that was approved and hasn't been spent. And the project started, so you're
That
carrying
are
over.
incorporated
So,
into these numbers,
so that's in the 57 number?
in the 57.
Yeah, the existings, we tried to make sure we got consistent on.
So actually, new money, you're at 48 million. Because the 9 million was already approved. And the interest that would have been owed has already been calculated in our payments for last year.
You could categorize it as
Although we
net
didn't spend it
funding.
yet, yeah.
Tomato, tomato.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we still have to pay for whatever it is we're spending, right?
Yeah.
And given-
No, but the
Yeah.
point
Still
is,
have
we
to
we
budget
didn't have
for
to
it.
pay that last year, but
That's
we
right.
budgeted for it, so that's still going forward. You can make it sound like, well, we can only afford 50 million because that's what we have to pay for. But last year, what we budgeted to pay on our debt didn't happen, because we didn't spend it.
That's right.
And that's why, to me, when a project started, that money that you already approved,
Yeah.
the project approved, carries over. So you have your new projects and
Yeah.
new money, plus your carryover.
Yeah.
And that's your total figure that you're saying you're borrowing.
That's
But
right.
the reconciliation that these guys have to do come March 31st is bottom out all that money that wasn't spent and or spent, right? And if I didn't get to start the project, getting it started is different, but existing, you've already approved for the next year anyway, in the budget if they had it 4 or 5.
That's what we're clarifying.
Yeah,
So from my understanding right now, we're at $48 million of new money, $9 million of carryover from project approved last year.
Based on what I'm
57 million, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Richard, did you have a question?
I'm okay with that.
Just
No,
a couple of points, and one of them, so once we establish those capital expenditures, that's in the operating budget for 20-25 years. We have to watch the balance between the new debt we're bringing on, the debt we are retiring is something for us to look at going forward. The other question I have is how we're gonna handle holdbacks on projects. So we get an invoice and we see that we're holding back 10%. And are we going to, how are we gonna manage that for our departments? Do we need to make sure that that is something that is in the budget going forward? Or are we able to set up an accrual saying, all right, we know that money has been spent this year, how are we gonna handle the holdbacks? Cause that catches us sometimes when those holdback
We've
payments
done it.
come through.
We just did it this past month, called budget transfers.
Yeah, but I think we,
No, that's what you've done, that's how it's been handled before. Cause you've taken money from areas that were already budgeted, that weren't expended, that's what we did, correct?
that's what we did, but I don't think that's what we wanna do necessarily going forward, so it's just kind of, we need to work on how we're gonna manage that piece to it.
Well, it makes sense that you guys were working on that, Dan and Lane, that kind of process.
Yeah, and at year end, that would be part of the audit review process. We'd look at all the capital projects, see what's been invoiced to date, what holdbacks are outstanding, and there would be an accrual set up at the end of the year for those amounts.
Yeah.
So how do we handle that accrual payment? Do we need it in the coming year budget, or is it something that, how do we manage it when next year I'm gonna get an invoice and I have to pay it?
We'll leave that up to you guys to discuss. Get back to the office.
We'll work through,
Okay,
but at the end of the day, we'll account for it in this year, we'll accrue for it this year, and then when you pay it next year, it'll go against that accrual, so it won't hit your
Okay, so
budget next year.
we don't need to budget for it at this time.
So, Mr. Chair, Lane and Dan, can we get, again, the rules on this Canada Community Building Fund, I don't think we can just put a bill in of $5 million for asphalt. The street I think there's areas that we can take it from. Can we find out what we're, like, for example, water and wastewater, money is in that fund for water and wastewater, correct?
Has been in the past, yeah.
And money's in there for public works, right? But I don't think, I'd like to find out, can we spend it all in one area?
Yes, you can.
Well, no, that's what I'm asking. I wanna,
Well, I'm telling you, you
well,
can. If it's eligible for street resurfacing, that's where you want to spend it, you can spend it there.
but
It has a number of
if we
eligibility.
put in $5 million for street resurfacing,
Yep.
and there's only 7 million, but water and wastewater has 4 million that they wanna put in. How do you balance that out? Richard, do you know the answer?
Yep, so there's a spending plan that will come forward to council for council's approval on the
You can
CCBF.
spend it where you want. Like if you have a number of different criteria that they're approval for, we used to always spend 2 million on asphalt and 1 million went to water and sewer for their
Right,
projects.
right.
That was council decision. You could have spent the 3 million on service.
I just wanna make sure that's checked up.
Excuse me, I'm gonna call a
Thank you.
meeting to an end, but just before I ask for a motion to close, adjourn, I'd like to thank staff, CAO, the team, the group. I mean, this has been the slug, it always is. And Dan, this is your second kind of go in kind of your role, and Lane, you know you're gonna be, you're good now, just you're gonna be really good next year,
Just-
right? And,
Just
through the process, so again, thank you and thank council and
Just one more question, though. I know when we talked about the buses, there was a possibility that $2 million could come back off the buses of the 4.5 million, correct? When will we know that? Are we waiting for approval from the feds?
Yeah, I just got an email with half the answer and hoping that I'll have the other half very soon.
okay.
No, I guess it's just in terms of next steps, so we're still on for council tomorrow night
So
to.
tomorrow, how do you want that to roll, Mr. Chair? As far as how it gets presented tomorrow to council, what do you want that to look like?
Similar to what we did.
I'm open for advice, help, I don't have a lot of kind of experience with this, getting it through, like what's any,
Yeah, I think I would have everybody in and I'll the managers of the department and just start off from the top.
Yeah.
And if there's any questions, and then just like Lane did, just go down. Don't do every line item unless there's a question on it, if there's a question. But at the end of the day, the budget we're looking at is $57.41 million. And this
So-
is
so
what
what
Do you want the department head on the rail?
If you can.
yeah, that, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes,
So
Is
you
it
would have
possible,
Dan
Dan?
and Lane, Dan and Lane would lead it and the department head would be on the rail with them in case there's any
Exactly.
questions.
Exactly.
Okay.
So is it
Any
possible to have a resolution ready, that we can pass it tomorrow night?
Do you think you'll be able to pass it tomorrow night?
Why not?
That would be
We
glorious
all get
if
a
you
green
could.
light, pass it and get her going.
Really? Okay, well, we'll be optimistic along with you that we can do that.
My recommendation would be that we hold off on the approval of the
When?
capital budget until we consider our operational budget, because we have to build in, depending on what council decides with what they want to approve, we then have to build that into the operational budget. So there may be a wish to go back and revisit it. I mean, we could approve it conditional on operational budget approval, but normally you would approve all the operational budget, the capital budget, the 5-year capital expenditure plan all at once, so it would.
So this is the part I don't know well. So could a resolution be worded in such a way that gives you the skating room to,
Yeah, we can do that.
subject to,
Yeah, but if we're borrowing 57 million, using your math, at 100,000 a million, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we'd be borrowing
5.7.
5.7 million. And again, I think what you guys have been doing by raising our payments on our interest and our principals, I don't know if it's raising our payments on principal, but it's gone up by 5 million in 2 years. That's a pretty good payback.
But
And I think Lane, looking down the road with inflation creeping up, the Bank of Canada is gonna have to do something to stimulate the economy. So we're gonna look at probably lower rates.
okay, just before the motion, and
So for
when I
the-
have you here, the staff, CAO, both of you, any department heads, I know, there's been, debate and issues surrounding, some of this process. Is there anything you'd like to say to us as councillors, in finishing up this process, going through it? Anything that jumping out at you that you'd like to share?
From my perspective, thanks for asking, I think it's just important that council has a good discussion in terms of what your priorities are, and we come up with a financial plan that we can move ahead for approval that fits within the MGA guidelines, but, promote a good, healthy discussion of considering various alternatives, and, and now's the time to make a good plan for the next year and years to follow, so.
And likewise,
Council gets
I guess,
these two.
Mr. Chair, the only question I would have for you
Let's
is,
clarify what we're passing on.
is the committee okay with borrowing
Passing on for
the
tomorrow
total
night.
57 million? 48 of it new money and a total of 57 million.
Yeah.
Is there any issues with that?
Your worship, did you want this document, the forecast on the capital spend to go to council as
It's
well?
information, we've shared it on live stream, it has to be public information.
to answer your,
What's that?
Councillor Bernard, I think you asked me a question.
Yep.
My short answer would be, I'm comfortable advancing it up to council for.
No, but when we go to council, not much that's going there, we don't know what our capital target is, and if 57 million is okay, then.
Yes,
It should be easy.
I recommend it.
I'm comfortable
I
advancing it
recommend
up,
it.
yes.
Yeah,
Makes
because
things a
we're
lot
not
easier for
advancing it, we, as a committee, we have to give a
Recommend.
recommendation, we
Yes.
don't just advance it for chat.
I recommend it.
But you want a resolution ready,
Moved.
just in
Yes,
case
second.
it goes through there tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again,
Good with that?
I-
Prepare a resolution for that?
Lane, Dane, I know that
Conditional.
you're both looking at maybe leaving this until operations, but operations not until March 25th, not March 28th. I just wanna get this out the doors, as Councillor Bernard has said many times, let's get out there and start going to tender ASAP.
I think right now we're shooting to start to tackle the operational budget next week. So, if we can get through the capital budget tomorrow and maybe have some cleanup to do on Tuesday at the special meeting of council.
Bring it up there.
We'll hopefully be running right into the operational budget discussions. To be clear, I think we're gonna be up against it a bit on the operational budget based on the numbers we're seeing, so we didn't get much of an increase in the tax, because of CPI. We haven't gotten any indication on additional provincial funding.
But we got an extra million in our planning, did we not? Planning permits?
Yeah. I think my advice would be that we have a look at the operational, before we put the seal of approval on the capital, but ultimately it's your
But if we
decision.
look at the operational, then how long do we keep that window open? I'm just saying, the budget, if tomorrow night, whole of council says, look, green light, let's go ahead on Tuesday, pass the resolution to
Why
put.
don't you do this, if everything's okay tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Do it in March, or March meeting, it gives them some time to reflect, and then we'll do it March.
So do you wanna go with the regular monthly meeting in March?
Why not? If they're looking for some extra time to make sure that i's are
For
dotted, t's are
both
crossed.
budgets, you mean?
No,
No, just the capital.
but I think Dan's saying that he'd like to have most of the operational done.
Yeah, I think we'll have a, in a couple of weeks, we'll have a much clearer picture of both operational and how the capital factors into that, so I think for the sake of a couple of weeks, it'd be.
Yeah, it just gives them time to,
So, we can say, come the regular monthly meeting for March, the capital budget for 25-26 will be forwarded for passage. Correct?
That's your wish.
Reflect that in the minutes? Great,
Done.
in the minutes.
Okay.
Motion to
All right,
adjourn.
motion adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
Councillor, Mayor Brown,
I think
seconded
it
by
sorted out as
Deputy Mayor Hancock.
everything that was done.
Adjourned.
Get into my room, 'cause I have to-
Anyway,